It was an ambush.
How many did you save?
Just like a dream.
You did the only thing you could do. And you lost.
Like a dream.
Look, we're still in this thing.
The day you walked away.
But we have no idea what we're dealing with.
Unfortunate.
Things are getting worse around here, aren't they?
Boyd, we're out of food.
Too many things are changing here. I have to remember.
Remember what?
What's missing?
Nothing that I've been through is possible.
I think you're here for what's in the basement.
This place will not break us. We can still win. But the only way we go home is together.
Hello. Come on, go. The game here is rigged. Why can't they leave us alone?
No matter what this place throws at us, we're gonna find our way home.
Everybody just talks about how afraid they are of dying. Well, I don't think that's the worst thing that can happen to you here. Hello?
Like a dream.
You looking for these?
Into my life.
You can't save them all.
But things are really how they you see.
It was the boy in white. He was the one that was down here. He was the one who was telling secrets to Christopher. He said the answers to the end are at the beginning. That it started with the children. What the others did to them, the people they loved. The people they trusted. He said the children were born in the dark. And then they were murdered in the dark. But someone who loved them told them a story. And when the children laid on the stones, they poured their hope into the roots that made the symbol, and those roots became the tree.
The faraway tree.
The boy in white was trying to tell Christopher that to save the children, he would have to go through the tree. Christopher wouldn't listen. So I told my mother what the boy in white said. That's why she left us.
Fatima is missing. We know that she's afraid.
I'm trying to protect you.
They think that we don't have what it takes to find her.
What is it? She wants us to follow her.
We proved that this place couldn't break us. Stop! We can either lay down and die, or we can say, we're taking our lives back.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one, welcome all to the episode 9 pre-game show, the penultimate episode in season 3. And it looks like we are finally on the verge of Revelations Part 1 and Part 2. And I cannot wait to see how this season is going to eventually end. It's been quite a wild ride up until this point. Seems like the season has whipped by. I mean, I know I say this often, but it truly feels like it was just a week or two ago that we were starting the season off. And here we are already just about, 8 weeks later, about to enter the final 2 episodes of season 3. But I am looking forward to it. I have a feeling these final 2 episodes are going to be jam-packed full of awesomeness and not only giving us, hopefully, some big revelations, as the titles may suggest, but probably also setting up some big cliffhangers for Season 4 and beyond. So I am looking forward to it. I think we have a really awesome 2 episodes to look forward to. And welcome one, welcome all. Thank you all for joining us on this fine Saturday evening as we hang out for the next around 2 hours or so, 2 hours and 15 minutes or so, while we wait for episode 9 to load up on our screens. Awesome stuff, awesome stuff. Welcome one, welcome all. Let's see who we got in the awesome chat. Let's see some early arrivals. Let's see some early arrivals. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I see Xavier in the house. What is up, Xavier? Good to see you. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Always good to see Xavier. Xavier's had some awesome freaking theories lately. I always love Xavier's theories. They're always very well thought out and methodical. So always good to see you, my friend. Welcome. Got Kiwi in the house. What is up, Kiwi? Always good to see you. We got the Texas Bulls. What is up, Texas Bulls? Welcome. We got Your Toast in the house. What is up, Your Toast? Good to see you as well. Got Daniel in the building. What is up, Daniel? Welcome, everybody. So glad to see everyone this evening. Got Nick L in the house. What is up, Nick? Always good to see you, my friend. Welcome, welcome. Got Chanel in the house. What is up, Chanel? Can you imagine Smelgin grabbing you like that? I love the Smelgin name. I swear, that's probably my favorite nickname that I've heard in the fandom since we started dubbing Tilly Fanny Pack Granny. Fanny Pack Granny and Smelgin are definitely my 2 favorite nicknames for sure. But yeah, like you said, he's been wearing that same old freaking stanky crow shirt ever since he arrived. So I imagine the smell of Smelgin is probably worse than even being grabbed by him. So you might be right there, Chanel. You might be right. I don't think anybody wants to experience the Smelgin squeeze. Don't want to experience the Smelgin squeeze. Got Elizabeth in the house. What is up, Elizabeth? Good to see you as well. Welcome, welcome. We got Golden Child in the building. What is up, Golden Child? Hey, everyone. Can't wait to see what's revealed tonight. I am right there with you, my friend, as well. I feel like we've had some ups and downs this season. More ups than downs, in my opinion. I've really enjoyed Season 3 for the most part. I feel like it's been a pretty solid season overall looking back. But yeah, I've very much been looking forward to these final 2. Ever since we got the episode synopsis and the titles revealed early on before Season 3 started, a lot of us were really looking forward to getting to episodes 9 and 10, just by the sheer fact of the titles being titled Revelations Part 1 and 2, indicating that we're probably going to get some big stuff over these final 2 episodes. So I am right there with you, man. I cannot wait for these final 2. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one, I think. We got Wolfspear in the house. What is up, Wolfspear? Good to see you as well. What is up, Bianca in the building? Welcome, welcome, welcome. See who else we got. We got Gus in the house throwing up the popcorn. Always a good time to throw the popcorn in the chat. Absolutely. Got Alvin Rogers in the house. What is up, Alvin? Good to see you as well. I see Vanessa's in the building. What is up, Vanessa? Got the Prospect joint. What is up? If Victor dies, we riot. Yes. This is a cause I can 100% get behind. If Victor or Jade die, we freaking riot. Victor and Jade are probably 2 of the characters I really want to see make it to the end the most. Victor, I'm a little more worried about Victor's longevity. I have the feeling Victor's storyline is headed for some kind of tragic sacrifice. And many of you have probably heard my co-host Ravener come up with a very interesting idea for how Victor's storyline might end. I really love his theory there, where Victor might end up kind of having this Hodor moment where he kind of sacrifices himself to save everybody else at the end. Which is very much how I see Boyd's kind of storyline going as well. I do not think Boyd is going to make it out of this town. He'll survive till the end. I don't think Harold Perrineau is going to get killed off of the show anytime soon. I think Boyd will make it to the end. I just don't think he'll make it out of the town. I think Boyd's ultimate fate will be to die saving everybody else. But I guess we'll see. But yes, I am with you right there. If Victor dies, we freaking riot. Especially, I mean, I can only imagine what this show would look like without the phenomenal performances that Scott McCord has put on as Victor. Really some of the best acting I've seen on the series, for sure. So, yeah. Got to protect Victor. We got Joan in the house. What is up, Joan? Good to see you as well. We got Kathy in the house. What is up, Kathy? Martin at a one time was a Marine. Maybe connection to Boyd somehow. Maybe. I mean, it was certainly one of the things that Boyd noticed right away. He saw the Marine tattoo on Martin's arm, and that just gave Boyd even more kind of resolve to say, hey, leave no man behind. Martin has made a giant return to the screen in episode 8, which has left tons of us wondering just who exactly is this Martin character really? Is Martin just Martin? Or is Martin potentially a future version of a character we've already met? There's been some very interesting theories flying around the fandom. Hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about Martin. And at least we finally, well after a year later, we have finally found out who dropped that friggin' rope down to Boyd.
Wait! Julie,
How do you know my name?
he needs the rope.
Who is that?
Hey, what?
Thank you.
Who's down there?
You need to leave. It isn't safe here. Go!
That is right. We finally got the long-awaited answer that we have been waiting, or at least a lot of us have been waiting a long time to figure out just how the heck would Martin drop this freaking rope down to Boyd if he was strapped to a freaking wall. And now, of course, we finally got the answer. But I must say, I think Julie was probably the last character I was expecting to see who really dropped that rope. When we were thinking about who could have potentially done it, I always thought it would probably been a character like the Boy in White or something. We know the Boy in White kind of pops up in these weird places at just the right time sometimes. So I always expected that maybe the Boy in White kind of maybe dropped that rope down to Boyd. Or maybe we would even never find out who dropped the rope down to Boyd. But I certainly did not have Julie, of all characters, on my bingo card for who was going to drop this rope down. So that was an interesting reveal. To say the least. And one thing is pretty interesting. We are finally getting some definitive answers. I know they're not big answers to the big things yet, but I am totally fine with waiting for the answers. But it's nice to get some little ones here and there. And of course, we did also learn some other answers in this episode as well, in terms of where the faraway trees originally came from, which is another pretty interesting reveal that we get through Victor. And I was really glad. I know I mentioned this last week in my review, but I was super glad that we avoided the whole From going full-on Chucky kind of vibe. Maybe it's just my bias personally, but I'm not a big fan of Chucky. I've just hated the concept right from the very beginning. The fact that this little 1-foot doll was capable of wreaking so much havoc when all you got to do is really pick this freaking thing up and throw it in the incinerator, and boom, that's the end of Chucky right there. But I've just never been a big fan of Chucky. So when From started heading into the territory of this whole talking doll, this whole talking Jasper doll character, I was kind of nervous to see how they were going to play it. Just because, I feel like the horror on the show up until this point has been pretty sophisticated. It's been very well-written horror in terms of some of the themes that they've been weaving into the show. So to throw just a talking doll in there on top of everything else, it just would have felt a little out of place for me. So I'm super glad that we dodged that bullet, that we don't have the full-on talking doll that Victor was just misremembering. Victor thought it was the doll that was telling Christopher this story, but really, it was the Boy in White himself. And what an interesting story it was. Gave us some answers, but kind of only led to even more questions as well, in terms of what exactly were happening to these Onkui children. Why were they killed? Were they part of some sort of grizzled sacrifice? And who exactly were the perpetrators in all of this? We hear from Victor that apparently it was the loved ones, the ones the children trusted the most, that did this to them. Could it have been their very own parents who sacrificed them in some grizzled kind of way? So we got some interesting answers, but also some new questions that we have to look forward to, some new mysteries that we can look forward to unraveling. So it was interesting. It was a pretty interesting reveal. And this is kind of how I expect the reveals to go on a show like this, a show like From, very similar to how Lost did some of their mysteries and Twin Peaks and all of the other mystery box shows before them. There's a very clear kind of format for this kind of mystery storytelling, where usually you get some answers, but those answers always only lead to new questions. And I have a feeling the show will continue that theme as it continues to go on. Season 3, 4, 5, however many seasons they end up doing. As we continue to get more answers, they will start to lead to new questions as well. It's not going to be one of these shows where we get all of the big reveals in the end and that's just all the answers. That's not how they're going to play this show, I don't think. But I'm enjoying it. I really enjoyed episode 8. I think it was a really solid episode overall. We've got some interesting information, some interesting answers that we've been waiting for a very long time for. So yeah, I like it. I like it. Xavier says, I just wanted to say that I am Martin chained up in the dungeon. It was Xavier the whole time, guys. We know Ravener was the mole, and now we know Xavier was Martin the whole freaking time. I was on to you, Xavier. You ain't fooling me, pal. You ain't fooling me, pal. I was on to you. I was on to you from the very start. Yerto says, I'm glad it wasn't actually a real speaking doll. When I first heard that theory, I facepalmed, and that was kind of my reaction to as well. I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't have been too bad. It's not like it would have ruined the show or anything. I just felt like it would have looked just a little bit out of place with, again, how kind of sophisticated the horror has been up until this point. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of Chucky. So I'm glad I'm not the only one. I guess I'm not the only one that's not a Chucky fan. That's cool. I know a lot of people like Chucky, which is totally cool. But yeah, it was just never for me. I was always more of a Michael Myers and Nightmare on Elm Street type guy myself. Even Jason, even give me some Jason before Chucky. Yeah, Chucky needs a trip to the fireplace, says Lydia. Indeed. Right into the frig. That's the thing. That's what always infuriated me about these Chucky movies, because you got this little doll, and I get that the doll is possessed by like this ancient killer or some shit along those lines, but at the end of the day, it's still just a freaking doll. It's a doll that's about 1 foot in height, carrying around a freaking kitchen knife. How are you letting this doll wreak so much havoc? But again, that is horror for you. Those are the horror tropes that you come to expect and love in horror. But yeah, I don't know. I was never a big Chucky fan myself. Never a big Chucky fan. I've got Breezy K in the house. What is up, Breezy? Good to see you. I see my brother Ty Briggs is in the house. What is up, Ty? Good to see you as well. See Just Janus in the building as well. What is up, Just Janus? I wonder if there is notes or a letter in Jasper's body. Now, I've been wondering what the whole purpose of Jasper is as well. Because yes, Victor was under the assumption that this Jasper doll was the one that was originally telling Christopher the story. But now, of course, we get the reveal that was really the boy in white. But that still begs the question, why exactly has this doll been popping up all over the place? And why have Jade in particular been having visions of this doll? Because if we remember, Jade had a vision of this doll in season 2 as well, where the doll looks at Jade and screams at him, and Jade famously screams right back at the doll. Very awesome scene. But I've always wondered, is there going to be some other part that this doll is going to play in the story? It seemed like it was a misdirect up until this point, but that's not to say that the doll won't have a bigger part to play maybe later on the show. So I've been wondering this as well. Will the doll have some other kind of role within the narrative that has yet to be revealed? Because I just found it very weird that Jade was dreaming about this doll. Jade usually only seems to have visions about things that seem to be kind of important, I would imagine. But he had one of this doll, so that leads me to believe that maybe the doll will still have some other kind of role to play in the show, maybe. Maybe. Got 88 Keys in the house. What is up, 88 Keys? I love Saturdays. Me too as well. Saturdays have definitely become my favorite week. I mean, it's usually always my favorite day when my favorite shows are on, whether it's From, House of the Dragon, Shogun, Yellow Jackets, all the shows that we cover here. Dune in a few days. Cannot wait for Dune to start. We will definitely be diving deep into that one here on the channel as well. And of course, I am working on my Silo Season 2 Episode 1 breakdown video right now. I should probably have that up on the channel Probably tomorrow or Monday, the latest, I would imagine. But really enjoying the start to Silo season 2. If anybody hasn't seen Silo yet, highly recommend checking that show out. Season 2 just started. There's only been one episode, and it's a really good show. Really good show. But yeah, Saturdays has been my favorite day up until this point. I'm really enjoying Saturday. Got Caitlin in the house. What is up, Caitlin? Good to see you as well. And welcome to everybody. Welcome to each and every one of you. And there you go, Yurtos, Lost in Twin Peaks. Yes, I know Yurtos is a big Lost fan, judging by the Jack avatar that that Yurtos sports every week. Awesome stuff. Yeah. I mean, again, I know not everybody liked the ending to Lost, but I very much adore Lost and how it started and how it ended, for sure. Who pulled the tent through the forest? Asks Just Janus. Yes. That is, of course, a huge mystery that I think a lot of us have been wondering for, ever since it first happened at the end of season 1. But for me, not only do I want to know who or what was dragging the tent, but I also want to know why the tent was being dragged as well. Because on first glance, when you see that scene, you tend to think that it's something a little bit menacing. It's a little bit nefarious. But when you stop and take a look at that scene as a whole and see how it ended off, you start to think, whatever was dragging this tent, maybe it wasn't trying to harm or hurt Sarah and Boyd. Maybe it was actually trying to help them. Because when we find out, this tent starts getting dragged, and instantly the talisman falls down, and I imagine whatever was dragging that tent could have easily killed Boyd and Sarah if it wanted to. I mean, Boyd and Sarah were just completely at this thing's mercy. They had no hope of defense. Whatever was dragging that tent must have been very powerful. So you definitely get the sense that this thing could easily have killed them in a heartbeat. I mean, if you have the power to drag this tent through the woods that far, whatever was dragging that tent must have been pretty formidable. Yet, not only what was dragging the tent didn't harm Sarah and Boyd, but when we noticed when the tent was done being dragged, they were strangely close to the lighthouse, close enough for the light of the lighthouse to shine onto their tent. So I started to wonder, what the heck was dragging this tent? Yes, but why were they dragging this tent? Were they trying to throw Boyd and Sarah off course? Were they trying to intimidate them? Or was whatever was dragging this tent, were they potentially trying to get Boyd and Sarah closer to the lighthouse? Because I feel like it's not a coincidence that by the time the tent was done dragging, they were practically within a stone's throw away from the lighthouse. That just seems like it's way too big of a coincidence to be a coincidence. So I wouldn't be too surprised if whatever dragged the tent was maybe trying to get Boyd and Sarah closer to the lighthouse. Because again, it easily could have killed them if it wanted to, but it didn't. It let them live, and it brought them closer to the lighthouse. So very, very, a lot of questions surrounding that scene, to say the least, Just James.
Yeah.
But in terms of who did it, I don't know. I mean, and welcome, Snug. Welcome, my friend.
Hey. Yeah, what's weird about that too is that the boy in white has them go through a faraway tree, right? And they wind up wherever they wind up. So he doesn't want them to go to the lighthouse either, it seems. But he made sure that Tabby got there, assuming that he made sure Tabby got there.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point, and I've wondered that as well. I mean, because yes, I mean, it's like as soon as Boyd and Sarah are getting very close to this lighthouse, boom, all of a sudden the boy in white pops up and fucking directs them into the faraway tree.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be too surprised if maybe the boy in white didn't want Sarah and Boyd to go to the lighthouse. And like you said, maybe it wants Tabitha there, but not Boyd and Sarah. So yeah, the timing was sus for sure.
Yeah, hopefully we find out some things. I'm kind of hoping we get at least some idea of which entities are on which side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before the end of the season. I don't want to wait another year to find out. I want to know, have a better idea, in the next couple episodes.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff. But yeah, I am looking forward to this one. We got 2 episodes left, Snug. The final 2 episodes. We are finally at Revelations Part 1 and Part 2. And I guess this will be one of the questions I'll ask the chat and you as well, Snug. Heading into these final 2 episodes, since just Janus got us started off with one of my biggest mysteries I'm hoping to get answered in terms of who or what was dragging this tent and why, I guess I'll ask each and every one of you in the chat, and you as well, Snug, what kind of reveals are you guys hoping to see in these final 2 episodes? If there was one answer, if there was one big mystery, any mystery on the show that you could have an answer to, what mystery do you want to have answered the most? Let me know in the chat. And what about you, Snug, as well? Do you have one question, one mystery that you want to learn the answer to, maybe a little bit more than the rest?
Yeah, there's so many mysteries that they've set up. It's hard to kind of narrow it down to one. I mean, you've got the stuff that Jade's working on. You've got what's happening with Elgin and Fatima. I guess I want to know what's happening with Fatima. I think that's just in the short term for the next couple episodes. What's happening with Fatima? And she's pregnant with something, and you had Elgin said that it wasn't hers. So how did she get that way? Is she going to turn into a monster? Is the baby going to be a monster? Is it going to be an alien? What is it going to be?
Yeah, big questions there. Big questions, and hopefully some big reveals. Now, when it comes to the whole Fatima thing, considering that was a storyline that was kind of seemed to be tailor-made for this season, I'm really hoping we get a definitive answer to the Fatima storyline this season. I'm really hoping that's not something they carry over to season 4, because sometimes they will tend to do that. They'll carry storylines over into the next season and leave us on kind of a big cliffhanger and not really give us all the answers, which I'm totally fine with. But when it comes to these kind of single season storylines, the ones that are kind of set up in a single season and hopefully paid off in that same single season, like the Fatima storyline, I'm really hoping we get a definitive answer to that within these next 2 episodes. I really hope that's not something we carry over to next year.
And I hope they give us a little bit more on the. I mean, you've said that they're going to tell us we're going to know the true nature of the town or have a better idea of it. So hopefully that will be the case in the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, I'm hoping we're going to, again, the titles being Revelations Part 1 and Part 2 definitely give me a little bit of hope that we're going to get something probably pretty big. If not in episode 9, then maybe in episode 10. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful we're going to get some interesting stuff. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, let's see what you guys are saying. What are some of the biggest mysteries, some of the biggest questions you guys are hoping to get answered? Breezy says, why did the boy in white want Tabitha to bring Henry back? He hasn't done much except school his previous self, Jim. Yes. And that was one of the scenes I meant to kind of get clipped. And again, I know I was a little bit later this week than I usually am, and I deeply apologize for that. I had a little bit of a personal issue pop up before the stream started. I had to handle, so my apologies for being a little later than usual. But that was one of the scenes that I really kind of wanted to get queued up to play here. I just didn't have the time to get it cut out and load it up to StreamYard. But this was one of my favorite scenes in episode 8, when we see Henry just kind of laying it to Jim and straight up telling him, like, hey, why don't you just shut the fuck up and listen to your wife every once in a while? Because like you said, he's schooling his former self, Breezy. I 100% agree with you there. Henry is looking at Jim, and he's seeing himself 40 years ago. Jim is going through the exact same thing that Henry went through, and it seems like Jim is reacting the same way Henry reacted too, where he was looking at his wife as, in the manner of something that needed to be fixed. Maybe she doesn't need to be fixed. Maybe she just needs someone to actually listen to her. So it was very interesting to see that scene and to see Henry kind of tell him, like, hey, I've been down that path. I've gone where you're treading right now. You might want to kind of rethink this, because I get Jim cares about his family. That much is very clear. He does care about Tabitha. He cares about his family. But I feel like Henry hit the freaking nail on the head, where sometimes that caring is born out of a little bit of a selfishness, where Jim's need to kind of control everything, his need to kind of make sure that everything is going his way inside his family. And I get that, being a father and being a husband, you want to have some measure of control over your life and over your family. But at the end of the day, you also have to give them their kind of independence as well. So I totally get what Henry was trying to impart onto Jim in terms of, it's totally okay to care about your family and to want to protect your family, but you also need to listen to them every once in a while as well, and maybe loosen the grip every once in a while. So this was a really good scene between Henry and Jim.
Was Henry that useless 40 years ago? I mean, Jim was obnoxious. He's like I'm sorry, he's the worst. I bring Dale back and get rid of Jim. I mean, Jim, I went back and looked and watched some of the early episodes, and Jim is just consistently useless and just childish almost. I can't stand him. I know he's going to do something good, but I still don't like him.
Yeah. No, I mean, and Jim's never been my favorite character, but I've never been on the kind of hate Jim train. And I don't want to say hate Jim train, but I know there's a lot of fans, particularly in our little corner of the fandom. A lot of people don't like Jim, and I totally understand why. He definitely has some qualities that aren't very desirable, and he definitely can be a little bit of a dunce at times. But I've always kind of tried to hold out a little bit of hope for Jim, where I do see some of the better aspects of him. I haven't lost complete hope in Jim, but then when you get to episode 8 and you see Jim treating Jade the way he did, now now I'm getting a little less. Now I'm holding out a little bit of less hope for Jim. I mean, because obviously Jade's my favorite character. Everybody who's been here knows that. So you start fucking with Jade when Jade is literally trying to solve all of this to save you, your family, and everybody else. Yeah, Jim. Jim didn't win any points, in my opinion, coming at Jade like this.
True.
Yeah. I don't know. And welcome, Aldous. Welcome.
Yeah. Good to be here, man.
Good to have you. Good to have you indeed. Are you ready for the final 2 episodes?
After the reveal of one thing that we've talked about for years, I'm excited, but I'm like happy. They could take this any number of ways because I finally found out who threw the goddamn rope.
Yes, we did. We finally found out who threw the freaking rope. And again, I said this earlier, but I mean, out of all the characters that we would have thought who really dropped this rope, I mean, I think the boy in white was one of the main suspects for a lot of us, at least for me. I mean, because the boy in white, this would be a kind of similar role that he would play. But I must say, Julie was probably one of the last characters I would have expected to be the person to drop this rope down.
Yeah.
Yep. No, and what it brings up now is now we know that it's always been a suspicion that time is not linear, but now we know for a fact that time is not linear, which opens up so many new possibilities that you can plausibly actually start talking about, because we do have establishment that, okay, Martin, Julie, and Boyd, they're all in a time frame that's outside of our normal time.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't go back and watch the episodes where Boyd was in the I'm just gonna call it an oubliette because that's what it seemed like to me. But where she was that at the same time that Tabby and Victor were in the tunnels? Were those the same time in the shows? Or okay, all right. So she was able to walk through those. I still not sure that's not how much of that's a vision and how much of that is real, but it does kind of answer that question, which I thought it was a production or a continuity error that they didn't think about how to fill that in, but then I guess they did. So that's pretty cool though.
Yeah, I was getting to a point where I was starting to think where maybe we'll never find out how this rope got dropped. Maybe that will be one of those things that the show maybe just kind of leaves a little bit ambiguous forever. So I wouldn't have been too surprised if they never really returned to this. So I was a little surprised to see them return to this quick, I guess, and give us that definitive answer where, yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, we've gotten all of this kind of hints and all these kind of really great theories pointing to time maybe not being 100% linear. Maybe there is some sort of not full-on time travel, but at least some kind of time displacement maybe happening here and there. And now at least we are getting that definitive answer where, yeah, time is not a straight line. It is very much a winding road, and it can kind of be accessed at different points to visit different points, which makes you wonder, is quote unquote saving the children the ultimate goal to everything that is going to be happening here? I think a lot of us, we've talked about this a lot in the past in terms of when it comes to all of the characters finally escaping Fromville, it's not going to be as simple as them just finding the way out and leaving. I mean, we saw what happened when Tabitha got out. She got pulled right back in. So it's certainly not going to be that simple. They can't just find an exit, all pile out, and live happily ever after. They will probably all get pulled back in if that was the case. So I think a lot of us were under the assumption that they need to do something. They need to complete something that they are here to do before they leave. And I think the line we get from Ethan very early on in season 1 was almost a direct kind of setup, like a direct allegory or a blueprint, if you will, for how the entire show was going to go. In terms of Ethan saying, this is a quest. We have to complete the quest in order to go home. And the quicker and the closer you get to the end of the quest, that's when it gets the most scary. So I thought that was like a little bit of an allegory for how the entire show was going to go, where it's not going to be as simple as them just finding the way out, finding the doorway and leaving. They need to do something. They need to defeat something or stop something here before they leave. And I think saving the Onkui children, successfully saving the Onkui children, might be the act that stops all of this, because we learned in this episode, the boy in white says, to make it to the end, you have to go back to the beginning. And apparently it all started with the children and what was done to them. And we see that they were put through what appears to be some kind of grizzled sacrifice or experiment or something. And it seems like it was maybe even perpetrated by their very own loved ones, maybe their very own parents, by the way that Victor describes it. So I get the feeling that is ultimately where the show is probably going to go. I hate to kind of tread down the freaking heroes path where, save the cheerleader, save the world bit, but I do get the feeling it's going to be a little similar, where save the Onkui children, save everybody in the town kind of thing.
Yeah, I think
but
so.
We'll see. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
It's just, I just feel like it's not going to be as simple as them just finding the way out. It's not going to be as simple as them just finding a door, walking out, and living happily ever after. They're here to do something, I think, at first.
Right.
Are you at all upset that we haven't learned literally nothing about the new Wooden Village? I was hoping to learn a little bit more, and maybe we still will. I mean, we do still have 2 episodes left. But they have been setting up a pretty intriguing kind of storyline with this whole kind of Cannibal Village place, that as we've been calling it, Cannibal Village, this ruined settlement. They have been setting up some interesting things. So yeah, I was definitely hoping to learn maybe just a little bit more about not just the village, but the entire area. And maybe we will through Tabitha's POV. We know Tabitha was she's finally having memories of this dream she used to have, this reoccurring nightmare she was having as a child, which seems to be tied to the very same area, these 3 stones that are very close to Cannibal Village. But yeah, I'm definitely hoping that we get something definitive. I'm hoping that's not a storyline they carry over into season 4 as well, because we've been getting this really ominous kind of knocking and these shuffling of footsteps outside of these cabins every single time some of our characters spend the night there overnight. Every single time we've heard the knocking. So yeah, I'm hoping we're going to get a little bit more on that. I'm not really disappointed on it yet. I suppose if season 3 ends and we don't get an answer, or at least some kind of bigger hint as to what was doing the knocking, if they do fully carry that story out until season 4, that will be a little disappointing just for me personally. I'm hoping they give us some kind of tidbit as to what could potentially be going on at night in Cannibal Village.
Yeah.
So that's
yeah, and just for the chat, I mean, we know that there's some people have seen what they think are spoilers. Just keep the spoilers out of the chat for everybody. We're kind of wanting to have it fresh.
Indeed. Yeah, I should have thrown up my no spoiler banner. Yeah, I know there have been some kind of spoilers going around, and a lot of us here have been fortunate enough to have avoided them. It's really not that hard to avoid spoilers if you just stay out of the places where spoilers tend to frequent. Places like Facebook groups, Reddit. Reddit is a big one. I know a lot of From fans like to go on Reddit and converse with other fans, which is totally cool. But that is definitely going to be a place where you are going to see tons of spoilers. So it really is, it's not too hard to stay away from spoilers if you kind of limit your interaction. And it sucks that as fans that, I kind of feel that same way. I love interacting with people about this show, whether it's in my comment section, our live chat here, our Discord. I love talking with everybody about the show. And it does suck when you feel like you have to kind of limit your interaction in certain areas for fear of spoilers. But unfortunately, that's kind of the world we live in these days, this digital era where and especially with a show like this, where it seems like they were giving out heavy early access to almost anybody who wanted it. So I do hope maybe they're a little bit more selective in season 4 with who they choose to give early access to. I feel like early access should kind of be reserved for more prominent members of the media, but they're kind of, but again, MGM can do whatever they want, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you just hate to see leaks like this, I guess, is the point that I'm trying to make. Because a show like this that is heavily predicated on mystery and the thrill of seeing what is coming around the corner. When those answers are out there in the ether before the episode even starts, it can ruin a little bit of the experience, a lot of the experience actually, because again, it's these mysteries, it's these big answers that we watch these big moments that we watch these shows for. So when these kind of big things are already out there floating around in the fandom, it can put a little bit of a damper on things. So yes, just out of respect to everybody who hasn't seen the spoilers yet and doesn't want to be spoiled, please do not put any spoilers in the live chat. And mods, I know we have a few mods here. If we do see any kind of spoilers in chat, I mean, just delete the comment. You don't have to ban the person unless it's a repeated offense. But if you do see any spoilers in chat, do not hesitate to kind of delete them, just to kind of keep it safe. But for the most part, just about everybody who hangs out here has been so freaking cool and has been pretty respectful in terms of not spoiling things for others. So I very much want to also thank everybody on that front as well. Like everybody that's been hanging out here on this channel and some of the other channels in our little neck of the woods, in our little Fromily fandom, everybody that hangs out over here for the most part has been incredibly respectful when it comes to not spoiling things for everybody else. So I do want to thank everybody for that. I mean, yes, From is getting to one of those points where the show is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and the fan base is getting huger and huger. Like the size of the fan base right now compared to the size of the fan base during seasons 1 and 2 has been just completely dwarfed, maybe quadrupled even in size in terms of how big the show is now compared to season 2, which is great. I mean, you love to see the show grow. On one hand, more fans talking about the show, generating more buzz around the show is always a good thing. But when shows start to become this big, that is when you have aspects like this kind of finding their way into the fandom, where you start to see some leaks and things like that, and some trolls every once in a while, where we didn't really have a whole lot of that during season 1 and 2. But again, that just comes with the territory. That's just one of the natural progressions of a show's growth. But again, everybody that's been hanging out here for the most part has been super respectful. So I just wanted to make a point to thank everybody in the chat for being very respectful in terms of spoilers. Because I know some of you have stumbled across some of these spoilers and wish you hadn't. I did hear a few people saying that in some of the chats where, man, I saw a spoiler this week and I really wish I hadn't, kind of thing. And that sucks. I mean, it does genuinely suck when you see a spoiler and you're not wanting to see it. But and that's why I've been very fortunate that I haven't really seen any big spoilers up until this point. And I'm trying to keep it that way because I like not knowing what's coming. That's one of the main reasons why I will never accept early access for a show like this. I've accepted early access in the past for other shows in terms of House of the Dragon and things like that, because I know the source material. I know that story like the back of my hand. So a lot of what is going to be coming on the show, I kind of already know is coming. But a show like this that isn't based on source material, that doesn't have that pre-existing model that people can kind of go back and get all the answers to, a show like this, I will never want early press access to, because I just wouldn't want to watch episodes early and then not be able to talk about them with everybody. And then when you're watching episodes early, it's, you kind of have to walk a very weird line in terms of what kind of videos you do. Because I guess I just wouldn't feel right doing theory videos on episodes where I already know what's coming. It's a little disingenuous at that point.
Yeah.
Now
I've heard there's some people doing that. Yeah. I've heard there's some people out there doing that.
There are some, but I also want to point out there are a lot of early access channels that are doing it very respectfully as well. So I certainly don't want to disparage early access channels in any way. because again, the majority of the channels that do have early access have been pretty respectful in terms of not spoiling things in their videos. But there have been one or two that have been kind of putting blatant spoilers in their videos. From what I've heard from the fandom, again, I don't have a whole lot of time to watch a lot of From content myself, so I haven't seen a lot of this, but I have had a lot of fans come to me and say that they've been seeing some pretty heavy spoilers being presented as quote unquote theories. And again, everybody's welcome to run their channel in any way they want. I mean, who are we to tell anybody otherwise? People can do whatever they want with their channel. But yeah, just speaking for me personally, early access is just not something I would ever want for a show like this, because I want to watch every single week. I want to not know what's coming. I want to experience it every single week as it comes out with each and every one of you. Because a show like this, it's incredibly fun to watch the show, yes, but I would argue that it's maybe even more fun afterwards when we kind of get together on these shows and these streams and these chats or in the Discord, and we kind of all pile in and start discussing the show. I feel like the discussions around the show are just as fun as watching the show itself. So that's not something I would ever want spoiled for me personally. So early access is something I will always probably, respectfully decline if it is offered in the future. But yeah, it's just my personal take. I love watching these shows week to week and experience it with everybody else. That's why I'm really not a big fan of the binge model either, in terms of some of these streaming services, they release all of the episodes right at once. Now that's okay for some shows. I feel like it really depends on the kind of genre of the show or the style of the show. If it's kind of more of your kind of surface level action show that doesn't really require a whole lot of thinking and stuff like that, shows like that are probably a little better for the binge model. But a show like this that is heavily predicated on mystery and all of these little hidden Easter eggs and signs that they throw in the background, a show like this you very much benefit from watching each episode multiple times. And not only that, having a whole week to stew on it. When there's only one episode coming out per week, you have an entire week to think about that episode, rewatch it every once in a while, discuss it with your friends, have a chance to really fully analyze the story that you're seeing. But when all of the episodes come out all at once, then you have different portions of the fandom are watching at different rates. You'll have some people that have already binged through the whole season, and you'll have other people that are watching episodes a little bit slowly, and that's when you happen to stumble upon spoilers and things like that. So I'm super grateful that MGM are releasing these episodes weekly and not all at once. I feel like it's really helping the show, and it keeps it in the public zeitgeist for far longer. When you have a show like this that is on for 10 straight weeks, that's 10 straight weeks of fans discussing the show nonstop. That's all free promotional material for the show itself. When a show releases all of their episodes at once, I've found that usually that show will get talked about for a few weeks, maybe a month at most, and then it's kind of died off. And there's really not many people talking about it because people have watched the season so fast. But a show like this, where again, it's 10 straight weeks of nothing but From discussion, I feel like it really helps the fandom. It really helps the show in terms of growth and spreading the show via word of mouth. So I'm super grateful MGM doesn't release all the episodes at once.
Well, that's kind of a throwback to where TV used to be, 20, 30 years ago, where you had, much longer seasons, but then you had a mid-season hiatus, and there was no other way to get the show except for just to wait for it. And so if it was compelling enough, then people would talk about it. And you've got some, Lost is one, where people were really talking about it. So it's good that they're doing it that way and not binging it.
Yeah. It's again, and that's just my preference. I mean, there's I know plenty of people really like the binge model, and that's totally cool. Nothing wrong with liking the binge model. It's just my preference, I guess. I think some people who spoil a show may be hired under the radar by competing companies to ruin a show, not just fan spoilers. Don't put nothing past what is possible. Ooh, that's a nefarious thought. If ever I've heard one. But I like you said, Bill D, I guess you really can't put anything past anyone, especially Hollywood does have some kind of shady underhand tactics that have been employed for ever since its inception. So something like this might sound a little outlandish on the onset, but when you really kind of get into the thick of it and you realize some of the things that have been way worse than this that Hollywood has done in the past, then yeah, I mean, I suppose it could potentially be possible that networks have, people that are trying to kind of, hurt competitor shows, that could certainly be a possibility.
Right.
For sure.
In the event that they were, if they were doing something like this, what it would be is like an extension of what Variety does, right? And you'll have a competing studio release dirt on this production was really troubled, and here's some of the stories behind it over a lunch with somebody. It ends up in a Variety article, and then that affects or any of the other trade pubs, right? Variety is just the first one that came to mind. But where you're probably going to see this as we further, disenfranchise the established media with kind of what we're doing right now between YouTube and Rumble and Twitch and all of the citizen quote unquote journalists that are in entertainment commentary that's going on, you would see access be used. So if a guy's got a channel, well, hey, talk bad about this or release these spoilers, and in exchange, we'll give you access to this. I wouldn't put that past them. But given the financial resources available to most of these streaming services, I don't see them paying anybody. Everybody's losing money right now. Netflix is the only one that seems to be coming out on top.
True.
And I don't think they're really worried. It's the classic, you never number one never references number two. They always reference number three. So like Visa will never talk bad about MasterCard, but they'll talk bad about American Express. Pepsi will never talk bad about Coke, and Coke will never talk bad about Pepsi, but they'll talk about, a third tier guy. Burger King, McDonald's, same thing. You don't talk about your next competition because you ignore competition. Direct competition, the best way to do it is ignore it unless you're doing a direct product comparison. And you really can't do that.
It's the upcoming future competition that you want to kind of stifle out before it has a chance to become new competition. So I can see that. You want to stifle new upcoming rather than established. And I right now, this is also all new. I mean, there's so many things that seem so intuitive to us because we consume streaming that you've got people that don't even understand the streaming model. Like Jeremy's talking about, they're still trying to figure out binge releases. Amazon still does some binge release. And it blows my mind why in 2024 you'd still be doing that especially after they learned their lesson with The Expanse and they self-correct. Just from a marketing standpoint alone, you think you would want a fan base discussing the show for multiple weeks on end, as opposed to talking about it for a few weeks and it's over.
Unless it's Rings of Power, then you probably want the fans, the people to get it over with.
Well, that's the thing. Even with Rings of Power, they're releasing those episodes one at a time.
Oh, are they? Okay.
They're only at least they did for the first two seasons, I believe.
They released a couple episodes. The first two, and then they do a single release, which is the pattern they've held on some stuff. I can't remember what it was. They released some series in the binge format recently that the wife and I were surprised at. But
it's just like you said, at this point in time, when streaming was very early on, that was one thing. It's brand spanking new, and you never know how something new is going to be introduced into a very long established ecosystem, like how people consume media. It's been pretty a same format for decades in terms of movies come out in the theaters, then they come out on home box DVD or Blu-ray. That was kind of the model for as long as we could remember. Now then streaming kind of came out of nowhere and just kicked the doors open and really just put media access at people's fingertips at the click of a freaking button. Everything is just instantaneous these days. So when these streaming services first kicked off, I could totally understand why they were kind of seeing how this was going to go, surveying the land at that point, trying some different things. But at this point, with streaming being out for a while now and it's starting to become very much established, it's definitely becoming the most consumed form of media up until this point. Yes, you would think by now most networks would probably realize that releasing episodes week to week is a far better marketing strategy than releasing them all at once. But then again, I think it also comes into the confidence that some networks have in some shows. I feel like the shows that they have a lot of confidence in, they will release weekly because they can count on the fan base kind of continuing that hype. But for some other shows that maybe are untested or shows that don't have the biggest fan bases, I think those are some of the shows that we'll see kind of get released all at once, just in the hopes that the network, just in the hopes that people will watch all of them, in terms of not having to wait week to week for a show that they're not too invested in. When you have all the episodes at your fingertips, you might be more inclined to kind of just get through it, as opposed to waiting week after week for a show that you're maybe not 100% invested in. So I could kind of see it being a play-by-play kind of thing. But again, I very much like the weekly release. For sure.
Right.
But Aldous, I want to ask you this. Because I was asking the chat this a minute ago, and we got some awesome answers coming through. But I asked this before you popped in. Now we're heading into these final 2 episodes in season 3, and it seems like, of course, they are titled Revelations Part 1 and Part 2, which I think is giving us a lot of hope that we're going to get some kind of big reveals, hopefully, in these next 2 episodes. Now, the question was that I put to the chat and to Snug and to everybody who wants to answer it. If you could pick one mystery, one question on the show that you could get a definitive answer to, what is the one mystery you want answered above all else?
Oh man, and I saw some people in the chat saying, "Well, I don't care who threw the rope." What I found most interesting about the rope was it implied that there was somebody else there at one time that left. And then when Boyd gets to the top, it was just him and Martin. And so that's why I was so curious about it. Because like, who would have done that and then left him with Martin? Because there's an implication there. If it's Julie that did it and then left, okay, now like I mentioned earlier, we know that time isn't linear. So now we have a couple of other events when like Jade walks into the cave and he has that scene where he sees the children and they look up and he sees the symbol and then he blinks and then they're all gone. Are those time jumps? Or are they in his head? And I want to go back through all the seasons. And now we have a question of, because we've now confirmed that Julie was in a different time, is if that's all happening. And we've had, again, I get it. We've had multiple instances suggesting it. Now we've got confirmation that 2 characters jump to the same point in time. If that's happening, I want an answer for what the timeline looks like. And where do those jumps take place? Because I think that's going to be part of more of the how you're going to be able to fit the pieces together. That's the border of the puzzle, right? If you can get that timeline, now we've got a border that we can start working off of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, interesting. No, and I like that perspective on it as well, because now we do kind of have to go back and question, all of these things that we've seen. In particular, Jade, because Jade has been having tons of these similar experiences. How much of it is him having just some kind of vision, and how much of it is him kind of being time displaced? Like, you go even back to the Civil War soldier. He's seeing the Civil War soldier literally shoot at him and stab at him with his bayonet. How much of that was just a vision, and how much of that was Jade actually kind of being time displaced in some manner? So I guess you bring up a good point. Now we kind of have to analyze, is everything 100% a vision, or are some things maybe a little closer to what Julie went through? So no, it's an interesting point.
And that actually makes, you had, I think it was the first episode of this season, you had Jade with his web of that he was looking at and trying to figure something out. I wonder if that the webs and then possibly that are just like different timelines that are kind of crossing together and coming together in different ways.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, Jade's Pepe Silva board. Pepe Silva, Pepe Silva. Everywhere I look, Pepe Silva. Sorry, Always Sunny in Philadelphia reference. But no, it's maybe that was some sort of visual for the reveal that they were going to lay out later on in the season, where there are these other kind of timelines where things maybe happen a little bit differently. But heading into episode 9 and 10, we have so many big mysteries that I know a lot of the fans still want some big answers to. So it's always interesting to hear from you guys. What are some of the biggest ones you want answers to? What do you want to see the most? Just Jana says, will From be a show? Would love to see it be a graphic novel on the series one day. Now, I mean, we're huge comic book fans. We've actually, this channel actually started as a comic book channel, and in its inception, before I kind of translated over to my love for TV shows. This channel originally started as a comic book channel, because we have a lot of fans in the comic book industry right now, from artists, writers, editors. We have a lot of ties to the comic book community. And I still have we still have a lot of friends that are producing some of the coolest books out there on the market today. So I would love to see From get some kind of spin-off graphic novel at some point. I guess it all depends on how the show is going to end, or maybe it's set in some other kind of time period. But I mean, just being a big comic book fan, I would love to see a graphic novel on From at some point. I mean, I'd certainly buy it. But that's just me.
Sure.
That is just me. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, time travel. I mean, yeah, time travel, time displacement. It seems like it's playing a little bit of a part. From future people are the entities. Oh, future from
Yeah.
people might be the entities. That's interesting.
You know,
And again,
early
Hmm.
on, way back when we first started talking season 2, somebody in the chat mentioned maybe the creatures are like Morlocks from the Time Machine by H.G. Wells. I vividly
Ah,
remember that because I know Raven and I had an offline conversation about it after a show. So you might be
interesting.
onto something there because you could, if you're displacing the timeline and everything's blending, then man, yeah, absolutely. They could be just an offshoot evolutionary thing.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, again, it's opened up so many possibilities. And in terms of the spirits, these entities that Sarah was communicating with, it looks like we are going to have a little bit of a continuation of that in this episode. Now, of course, Sarah was very kind of connected to this place super early on, and it seemed like she was kind of like the only person of her kind that has come around in Fromville for a very long time, at least according to these entities, where they say to Sarah, they've waited a very long time for someone to get stuck here that could actually hear them. But now we saw she got a lot of kind of communications from these spirits, entities, these disembodied spirits, if you will, in season 1. A little bit less so in season 2. We got one little instance at the very end of season 2 of her using those abilities again when Boyd and Kenny bring her to the ruins, and she directly communicates with the entity, where we learn a little bit more kind of subtext for what the entity was really planning. But in season 3 so far, we haven't seen Sarah use that ability at all. Not a single time, but it seems like that is going to be returning, because I have a sneak peek of episode 9. It's just a quick little 1-minute scene. And so I guess I'll give this quick little warning. If anybody doesn't want to see it, if you want to wait before you actually see anything from the new episode, I totally understand. Maybe just mute your mic for around a minute or come back after a minute or so. But I have a quick little 1-minute sneak peek preview of episode 9. And I'm going to play it here in one moment. And again, if anybody doesn't want to see it, I'm giving everybody full warning. You have it's only around 60 seconds long, so it's not going to be long. But if anybody doesn't want to see it, maybe just mute your stream or come back after a minute. But this right here is a quick little sneak peek of episode 9, where it looks like Sarah is using that ability, or has used that ability once again, or is receiving some kind of message once again, and it seems like it is tied to Fatima. Now, I won't say anything else beyond that. I'm just going to play it. But if anybody doesn't want to see it, again, maybe just leave and come back in 1 minute. But without further ado, here is a sneak little preview of episode 9. And again, this was released by MGM on YouTube. This isn't something that I'm kind of just dropping out there. MGM themselves released this scene. It's out there in the open. I'm sure maybe some people have even seen it already. But without further ado, here is a little sneak peek of episode.
But things are really how they seem.
There we have it, guys. And again, I've been wondering what's been going on with Sarah's abilities, because again, we haven't really seen them get used in the longest time. I mean, she didn't seem to be communicating with these weird entities for a while. But here we get, she does still have the ability, and it looks like these spirits, these voices, are reaching out to Sarah and kind of taunting her. It seems like they were laughing about Fatima and taunting her in the sense of saying you'll never be able to find her inside, which again does point to the aspect of these voices that Sarah is hearing. There definitely seems to be some more evil and nefarious voices out there that she might tap into every once in a while, and there seems to be some good voices that she taps into every once in a while, in terms of the end of season 1, when it seems like she genuinely connects with the spirit of Boyd's dead wife, Abby, and learns about fish and loaves. And we first get the line of there are worse things out there in the forest than the monsters. So it seems like there are good aspects out there that Sarah can tap into, and there are some more darker, malevolent, evil spirits out there that are manipulating her to try and kill children. So this was a very interesting one. I mean, we got the spirits, these voices out there, again, basically taunting Sarah, saying that you won't be able to find Fatima in time. So that was a very interesting one. I'm glad that Sarah's little, supernatural radio isn't on the fritz. It was just kind of dormant for a little bit.
Mhm.
Awesome
Yeah,
stuff.
what else will she do with it? Or I guess they've got Elgin doing their dirty work, so they don't necessarily need her to do it as well. But you never know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Right. And this, I apologize for asking that. I did watch the episode, but I had a moment where I was distracted between the kids and the dog. Elgin goes into the infirmary and he puts the bag of blood in and puts the IV in. And then the camera goes off. And then did we ever see what was on the picture?
I think it was the
Yes,
cabin.
the picture. It was the cabin. It was the picture of the cabin. And I think that was to indicate to us that that's how the kimono creature was communicating with Elgin. Because at one point, like 2 seconds before then, we see the kimono creature show up in the cabin, and Fatima sees the kimono creature. I think that was the kimono creature trying to find where Fatima was. She found her location and then instantly communicated to Elgin, this is where you can find her, kind of thing, and spit out the picture of the shack. But
is there any significance to using the camera? Because they don't have to use, or maybe is there some entities that have to communicate differently than others? Because he sees the kimono creature.
Yeah.
Why can't she just
And
tell
she
him?
talks to him. Yeah, she's talked to him in the past, and that was one thing I was wondering as well. It's like it seems like sometimes she's communicating with him, just straight up appearing and talking with him. Like the very first time we see her start to act all sus when she just kind of appears behind his back, whispering in his ear, "I can help you, Elgin. I can get you and everybody else home," kind of thing. Like super sinister and creepy right here. And then other times, it seems like she's communicating locations and stuff via this camera, because even the camera was how she first told Elgin about to take the blood, which of course is most likely going to be used to nourish Fatima's baby even closer. There were some people asking why Elgin was taking his own blood. I can only assume that it's probably going to be for Fatima. We saw that she's already developed a taste for human blood. And maybe this kimono creature knows that Fatima is going to need more human blood in order for this thing that's growing inside her to kind of come to fruition, to kind of fully grow. So I get the feeling the blood was most likely for Fatima and the baby. But yeah, it's very interesting to see that sometimes the kimono creature is communicating via the camera, and sometimes she's just showing up and talking to him. Now, could it be a public perception thing? Could it be one of those things where she only wants to show up in person when Elgin is alone so he doesn't look like a nut talking to something invisible? Is it a little bit of a stealth thing? I don't know, but I did wonder that as well. Why is she using the camera to communicate sometimes, and other times just straight up talking to him? So yeah. I
thought of a better answer for like what I'd like to know, and or what I'd like to have resolved, and that would be how they pick people from the real world to come to From. Because you have, I mean, did they pick out Elgin, and then so they brought this whole bus full of people just to get him, or was there anybody else on the bus, or did they somehow engineer different people to be on the bus at the same time? That's kind of what I'd like to know that. I don't know if they'll ever tell us, but
yeah.
Well, I think
I don't know.
There's a lot of people on the bus that we've never been exposed to, because that was a large group,
right?
And really, other than Elgin, Randall, and Fanny Pack Granny, we haven't seen the bus driver. We haven't seen the bus driver in a while.
We saw her last. She wanted to set the diner back up.
Oh, I'm saying, but as far as an interface into the primary arc, right?
Yeah.
You see them in the background. They're doing things in town, but they're not active. I kind of split everybody into passive participants and active participants, right?
Main storylines and kind of secondaries.
Yeah, and you haven't seen any of them in an active. So that's an interesting point. We got arguably 2 or 3 main players that have active implication in the primary arc. We've got a lot of secondaries, so that is a good call, man. Like how they're coming across. And I do want to give Quan Solar a shout out because he made me laugh with the Polaroid is a sponsor. That's why the camera's involved in the show.
Yeah, it's just a plug.
That's
It's
a
just a
good
little
one.
merch plug the whole time. A little, yeah, sponsored by Polaroid, Fromville, coming to a freaking town near you. That's a good one, Quan. That is a good one. But yeah, no, yeah, looks like Bacta's going to be opening up the diner again. We did see her go up to Kenny. I think it was like like an episode or two ago, and she asked Kenny, like, "Hey, what would you think about reopening the diner?" And it looks like Kenny took her up on her offer, because now we see the diner is back and it looks like it's at full swing again. We got people in there eating food again. We got Bacta behind the counter becoming the new Tien Chen. She's got some really big shoes to fill. I mean, I don't think anyone will ever be able to replace Tien Chen personally. But it's nice to see that they're at least giving Bacta some kind of storyline to on the show, because like you said, Aldous, these new bus characters, there's pretty much only Randall and Elgin have been given like really definitive main story arcs, where the rest of them have been kind of secondary. Even Mari is a little bit more secondary. Tilly, Bacta. But yeah, it's nice that they're at least giving Bacta something to do, because I've been wondering what they're going to do with this character ever since the end of season 2, when Bacta we get that reveal that Bacta was apparently the only one that had previously heard the nursery rhyme, the creepy nursery rhyme that was going around in season 2. They touch, they break, they steal. It seems like Bacta was the only one that had heard that before she was stuck here in Fromville. So that led a lot of us to believe, okay, what kind of weird connection does Bacta have to this place? Like, how come she knows this nursery rhyme where nobody else has ever even heard it? What connection is going to be revealed there? So I was hoping they were going to dive into her character a little bit more in season 3, but up until this point, we've really gotten next to nothing from her. And maybe they're just saving her deeper storyline for season 4, maybe, I imagine. But at least they're giving her something to do, because, yeah, we got to see next to nothing of Bacta this season, which is a little unfortunate. I'd like to learn a little bit more about some of these newer characters. She did have that one good scene with Jade in season 2, and they're both sitting at the bar and kind of reminiscing on their lives and the state of their lives and where they were when they got stuck here in Fromville. And we learned a little bit of the backstory on Bacta, how she became a bus driver just to pay for her tuition. She had just recently graduated. She was about to start a brand new life, and then boom, she gets stuck here. So yeah, I was hoping to learn a little bit more about the character, but they've kept her on the back burner up until now. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what they're going to do with good old Bacta. But if nothing else, looks like the diner is back open and running again, and at full capacity by the looks of it. It is at full capacity. All right, let's dive into this a little bit. Now, I do have the episode 9 trailer, and I do have these episode 9 stills that we can take a look at. So I am going to play the trailer one more time. But before I do that, I also saw earlier that we had a new member from Nikki. Nikki became a new member of the channel. Welcome so much, Nikki. So glad to have you here. And of course, be sure to make use of all of those custom Fromville emojis we have. And let us know if you guys have any requests for some new ones. And we also have Amy Bones for $1.99. Thank you so much, Amy, for the super chat. Very much appreciate the support. Spike that like. Can't wait for some revelations. Absolutely, Amy. I am right there with you. Bring on the revelations. It is revelations time, or almost. We are around 1 hour away from episode 9 hitting our screens. So thank you so much, Amy, for the super chat. And thank you so much, Nikki, for becoming a member. And chat, you know what that means. I owe them a whoa. Whoa! Thank you. All right, let's dive into this a little bit more, shall we? Now, again, I'm going to play the episode 9 teaser trailer, and after which I want to hear from each and every one of you in the chat and on the panel. What were some of the things that stuck out, that stand out to you the most in the trailer, and what are some of your predictions or some of your hopes for episode 9? But first, we got Eric Grant with the gift of 5 memberships. 1, 2, 3, 4. 5 memberships gifted from the generous Eric Grant. Thank you so much, Eric Grant. Very much appreciate you, my friend. And like I said earlier, how this channel kind of started off first as a comic book channel. Eric Grant has been here since the very beginning when this channel was just a comic book channel. Awesome people like Eric Grant. And I see Mo Biggs in the chat as well. What is up, Mo Biggs? Some of my oldest friends that I made here on YouTube, dating all the way back to the beginning of the comic book days. Welcome, Eric Grant, and welcome, Mo Biggs. Good to see both of you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you so much, Eric, for the gift of the 5 memberships. Wow. Looks like Vanessa is now a member. Karma is now a member. KS is now a member. Buddha Cafe is now a member. And Nay is also now a member. Welcome one. Welcome all. So glad to see each and every one of you here. And again, thank you so much, Eric, for the gifted memberships. And I also owe you a whoa.
Hell yeah. Eric Grant's good people, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for real. Eric, Mo, I mean, it's always awesome to see that some of the comic book people have kind of, dived in and started watching a little bit of From and come and hang out with us every once in a while. So I very much appreciate that. It's always awesome to see some of the OGs in the chat, like Eric and Mo, for sure. For sure. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. All right, now let's do this. Let's dive into this episode 9 teaser trailer. And again, after I play the trailer, I want to hear from each and every one of you in the chat and from you guys on the panel as well. What were some of the scenes that stick out to you the most in the episode 9 trailer? And just general, what are some of your thoughts and predictions for this upcoming episode? What are you guys hoping to see in episode 9, Revelations Part 1?
Fatima is missing. We know that she's afraid.
I'm trying to protect you.
They think that we don't have what it takes to find her.
What is it? She wants us to follow her.
We proved that this place couldn't break us. Stop! We can either lay down and die, or we can say, we're taking our lives back.
Oof, man. Looks like things are starting to heat up, and it looks like it is becoming general knowledge that Fatima is missing. And of course, we have Boyd and Donna bringing this information to the entire town, letting them know, hey, Fatima is missing. And it looks like, I imagine, we are going to see a search party start in this episode to go and look for her. But let me know in the chat. And of course, let me hear from you guys as well. Aldous and Snug, what were some of the things that stood out to you for episode 9? Or what are some of your thoughts and predictions? What are you guys hoping to see?
I got to let Snugs go first on this one.
Oh, I wanted you to go first. I don't know. Let's see. Why is Victor trying to cut down the bottle tree?
Eesh.
Yes. And is it the faraway bottle tree, or is it just a bottle tree? And what does he think he's going to accomplish by doing it?
I think it's the faraway bottle tree. I think it's the same faraway bottle tree that Tabitha goes through at the end of season 2. The one that's supposed to lead to the lighthouse. And let me pull that up a little bit because, that was a very interesting scene. And this is definitely one of the scenes I am looking forward to seeing the most as well, because it seems like we have Victor getting ready to chop down this faraway tree, this bottle tree. And here we can see if he's already laid a few shots into it. And the boy in white shows up and starts yelling no to stop. Now, my first instance, and I mentioned this in my breakdown video, but part of me has a feeling that this is tied to Victor's guilt. And in some part, maybe even some of his anger, because he learned in episode 8 that it was directly his story that he went back and told his mother that directly led to her death. So I have to imagine Victor is going to be feeling some kind of measure of guilt, thinking, man, if I only had never told my mother about the story I heard in the basement, maybe she'd still be alive. Maybe she never would have left us, because that's the last line he says in that scene. That's why she left us, because I told her this story that the boy in white told Christopher. So I have to imagine Victor is going to be dealing with a big amount of guilt, thinking that he indirectly caused his mother to die. It was his story that he told that led to his mother's doom. So I wouldn't be surprised it's part guilt and maybe even part anger. Maybe he's a little angry with the boy in white for not kind of filling him in, not telling him a little bit more about this. So I get the feeling it's a mix of those two things. The guilt that he's dealing with for the revelation of his story leading to the death of his mother, and potentially some of his anger that he is maybe having for the boy in white now after learning that. So maybe he's just trying to take out his frustration on the faraway tree.
Mm-hmm. The scene in the last episode where the boy in white's telling Christopher, that about the children and is trying to get him to save them, almost suggests that maybe the boy in white does have good motives, because otherwise, why would he do that? Although it's not clear exactly what he's doing, but it seems like that if he's trying to get them to do that, then there's a positive motive there to save the kids.
Maybe, and I am again. It's we've gone back and forth on this for a while in terms of like what is the boy in white's true motivation? What is his real goal? Is he really trying to stop all of this? Is he trying to stop this cycle that seems to be repeating over and over and over again by finally guiding somebody to successfully save the Onkui children? Maybe it's something he can't do personally. Maybe that's a task that he needs somebody else to fulfill. There's a lot of weird rules that Fromville kind of places on its occupants. They can do certain things, but not others. The monsters can come out during the night, but not during the day. There are clear rules that they set up, and even the cast and crew, they even refer to them as rules in some of the interviews. That there are clear rules that the town sets up that can't be broken. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to learning a little bit more about the boy in white. But after hearing that revelation, yeah, maybe his ultimate goal is to really just finally break this cycle and end this whole repeating kind of loop that seems to keep happening over and over and over again. So yeah, maybe he's not as malevolent as some originally thought. Maybe he is actually maybe he does actually have better intentions. I suppose it could go either way, for sure. But yeah, this is going to be a really good scene. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where this goes. It seems like obviously Victor takes a few swipes at the tree. The boy in white shows up and tells him to stop. And yeah, the boy in white's voice, his nuts have officially dropped. And again, that's one of the risks that you kind of go through when you're casting child actors in a long-running series like this. It's gonna get to a point where that kid's gonna start to grow up faster than his character should be growing up. And especially someone like the boy in white, who seems to be kind of eternally stuck in this boy-like form for the past 40, 50 years, maybe even longer. So yeah, it's going to come to a point where they're going to have to do something about it. I mean, they can either just ignore it and kind of just hope that the audience maybe just suspends their disbelief, similar to what we're doing with Ethan, because Ethan is on a similar trajectory where he's getting older and older and older every season. He's starting to look way older now than he did in season 1, when really there's only really actually been a few months that have actually passed inside the timeline of the actual show. So it gets to a point where, does the production have to kind of address this at some point? Do they have to kind of write in some kind of time jump? Do they have to maybe recast the roles at some point? How exactly do they, handle that? Because again, that's always a risk that shows go through when hiring child actors on a long-running series.
Yeah, Ethan too.
For sure.
Yeah.
And you brought it up, so I have to mention it. I think I'm actually contractually obligated to mention it as much as I talk about this darn movie. The way that Richard Linklater got around this when he came up with the idea of the film Boyhood, he filmed over a decade. And they filmed all of the scenes with Ethan Hawke, Patricia Arquette, and their son in the film over 10 years. And so you see the natural progression of the boy growing up, and thus the name Boyhood. It's a fantastic movie, but that's how Linklater addressed it, was all the scenes that he needed when the kid was 8, he filmed when the kid was 8. And then the next year they came back and filmed all the scenes when he was 9, and so on for a decade.
That's just the dedication it would take, and the patience and the dedication that it would take to put forth and put together that kind of production. I mean, do you think that's even possible nowadays with how current Hollywood is and how everything is set up to be so instantaneous? I don't know if something like that would even be possible anymore, but that
I
takes
think it
some
is. I think
really
there's still enough auteurs out there that really
maybe might
appreciate
be.
things
Mhm.
and would take the time to do it. If like you could do it for this show after season 1, you're not going to do it for season 1 because it's a risk and you're not going to waste the money. But for season 2, man,
Yeah.
film some of those scenes now because you know
Mhm.
you got renewed. And even if you only do snippets, even if it's just the boy in white reciting lines, at least you can overlay it and shoot from behind
Mm.
and play with the sound mixing to get it to work. But
Yeah.
as far as an answer to your question, season 1 ended with Boyd disappearing. Season 2
Yeah.
ended with Tabitha disappearing. We've got precedents here. Somebody's going to go. Somebody's going to disappear from the timeline. We also have the establishment that the timeline is fractured and people are jumping, as I've kind of talked about. And man, the one difference that this episode had, outside of the moment with Elgin and man, I'm drawing a blank. Sorry. But outside of the Elgin moment and but outside of that, and then the moment with Randall, there really wasn't a great character moment other than the final confrontation between Jim and Jade. So I'd love to go back and look at who was the big conflict before the major reveal in the previous 2 seasons, because I think there's a pattern that's emerging.
Okay.
My guess would be Jade is going to be the one that disappears at the end of this season. You're
Really?
also gonna have a loss, because historically we've always had a loss. So at least some tertiary character is going to die, but we've known that for a while because that was stated early on. Somebody you love
Right.
is going to die.
But
So
Dale's
we know
already gone.
that. Dale's. God damn it, Snugs. So I think we've got that, but
R.I.P.
I
Dale,
think
man.
what it's going to
Poor
do,
Dale.
I think the reveal of the timeline is going to be the primary, like, call sign of what's coming. We're going to get something because they've established that. You don't establish that as a writer unless it's really going to play into what's going in. So my estimate would be, or my expectation would be, Jade's the one that's going to disappear at the end of the episode, following the Boyd and Tabitha pattern that we've established. We're going to lose a tertiary character. That's already known. And then it's going to involve a timeline jump. Only it's going to be something that's connected to something we've already seen, because now we're starting to pull threads together. That would be how I would guess it.
Okay. Yeah, I think
Quan
however
Solar Jim has
TV
a red saber.
Yeah, is Jim a Sith Lord? Again, Jim does not have a lot of fans in these chats, which is
Well, I tell you,
it is kind of funny. It's become kind of a meme
Yeah.
at this point,
Yeah.
but it is kind of funny. But no, I definitely am. I'm definitely envisioning some kind of cliffhanger. I mean, I do believe I
Yeah.
remember John Griffin stating that they're setting each season up where each season will most likely end on some kind of big cliffhanger that sets up season 4. And they followed that format pretty much to a T up until this point, where season 1 ends with the big cliffhanger of Boyd being stuck in the shaft. And then season 2, of course, ends with Tabitha making it back to the real world. So every season has left off on some kind of big reveal, but that big reveal in and of itself has always been a cliffhanger. So I'm very much expecting season 3 to kind of end in a similar manner, where we'll probably get some pretty interesting things over these final 2 episodes. Maybe some interesting answers, maybe some interesting reveals. Again, the title Revelations Part 1 and Part 2 definitely at least gives us the indication that we're going to get some kind of reveal, I would imagine. But whatever the reveal is, I imagine it's going to be a little bit of the cliffhanger variety, and it will probably only set up even more questions for season 4 and beyond. But up until this point, I guess this is another thing I want to ask. How satisfied has everybody been in the chat and on the panel up until this point? I know we haven't seen the whole season in its entirety yet, but we've seen the first 8 episodes. We got 2 episodes left. How satisfied are you guys with season 3 so far? Has this been a satisfactory season for you guys? Have you guys been enjoying season 3? What do you guys think in the chat and on the panel? Where would you guys rate season 3 up until this point compared to seasons 1 and seasons 2? Are you enjoying it more, less, or right about the same?
I'll go first on this one, just to cut you some slack, Snugs. The season 3's been better than season 2. Season 2 was a lot of exposition and a lot of setup. But this has been really nice. We're starting to get some answers, and it's one of the things we talked about very early on in this season is we needed to get some answers. And it started off that we got more questions, and then they've accelerated the answer line. Bringing Tabitha back, especially with Victor's dad, is a really interesting choice. And I'm curious about how they're going to do that because that you're really playing with dynamics, and sometimes I'm torn on how they've handled that dynamic. At times he doesn't act like a guy that hasn't seen his son in 40 years. At other times he acts like a completely broken man that hasn't seen his son in 40 years. You know what I mean? And it's a really good dynamic that they've added to the show because it's one more layer of tragedy. Only it's a layer of tragedy that now he's trapped, but he's back with his son and he's been reunited. And it's a really nice dramatic toy to play with. And they really haven't explored that as much as I anticipated them to. But again, we've gotten those answers. So it's been a nice balance. I'm really happy with it. I think Lord Ravenry said season 3 started very strong and then plateaued pretty hard. I think the next 2 episodes are going to give us, I think it's going to be quick. I think it's going to be fast and it's going to be visceral. And we're going to be left off with something that's going to be pretty emotionally draining is my guess.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. And again, I feel like season 3 did it. It started off right out of the gate with a freaking bang, like a big bang, with the death of Tien Chen, and not just the death of Tien Chen, but then the aftermath of her death. With the first 4 episodes of season 3 were just incredibly phenomenal. Not just the storyline wise, not just being very satisfying for getting what we were getting, but the acting performances as well. You look at how Harold Perrineau played the Tien Chen scene for one, and how in episode 1 they do everything but lean into the gore, which I was so happy that they played it that way, where they could have easily leaned into the gore and shown Tien Chen getting ripped to pieces, which we do get a little bit of context for that in the next episode, in episode 2, when we see Boyd kind of flashing back to it. But in the initial scene, when it was originally happening, they don't lean into the gore. They kind of just slowly zoom in on Harold Perrineau's reaction, Boyd's reaction to seeing what he's seeing. And I thought that was just a phenomenal way to film that scene, where you're just solely focused on Boyd and just the emotional and mental agony that he is going through, watching what he is watching, knowing he is completely helpless to stop it, and knowing the implications it's going to have. Boyd's very close with Kenny. He knows Kenny already lost his father here. I imagine that's probably going through Boyd's head as well. Like, holy crap, Kenny has lost both of his parents now, because Boyd very much cares about Kenny, almost like he's its own son. So I very much appreciate how they chose to film that scene in that first episode, how they didn't really kind of lean into the gore. They were solely just relying on the acting prowess of Harold Perrineau. And I think that was a phenomenal decision to play it that way. And then episode 2 comes around, and boy, they just lean right into the freaking gore, where we get a flashback and we actually see some of the nasty things that poor Tien Chen went through. But I'm glad at least in episode 1 they didn't show it.
If I could, Jeremy, one of the things that October was really, man, the last 3 months have been really busy here just off Orwell Lane. It's just been insane. So normally Mrs. Aldous and I watch a bunch of really bad horror movies leading up to Halloween. We didn't really get a chance to, so we're making up for lost time. We're trying to catch some. And we watched one of the 30 Days for Night sequels that is not a good movie. By 30 Days a Night's great. I mean, they took Ben Temple Smith's comic and really made a good one. But one of the sequels had Harold Perrineau in it, and it's from like 2002 or 2000. It's early 2000s, and if you want to see acting range and how much he's improved, go watch that. He's still good, but you see moments where it's like, oh, this guy's going to be good, and you can see where he's at now. But he's a lot younger and he's inexperienced, and you can really see the growth of an actor. It was the only fun aspect of that movie that was otherwise awful.
Yeah, I haven't seen all of the 30 Days of Night sequels. I know they made a few of them. I tried watching 30 Days of Night too, and I couldn't get through it. I couldn't get through 10 minutes of it. They completely recast Melissa George's character, and I thought Melissa George was good in the first one. And they even bring back Eben's character at the end of the movie, and even that was played by a different actor as well. And these are like the kind of like sci-fi, style quality sequels to a big budget Hollywood production. So you're never going to live up to the original. But no, the first 30 Days of Night, I like that movie. That's one of the better vampire movies out there in existence.
Oh, it's fantastic. I actually haven't read adaptation.
That's the thing. I've never read the graphic novel. I've heard of it. I know it's based on a comic, but I've never actually read the 30 Days of Night comic book. But I really did enjoy the movie. I'm gonna have to pick up the comic at some point and read it and see, the similarities and differences. But yeah, Harold Perrineau. The guy is just, it must be so nice, being MGM and being, the head of the show from where John Griffin and Jeff Pigner are concerned. It must feel so relieving knowing that they have, a veteran, well-acted actor like Harold Perrineau heading the show up. I mean, if you're going to pick anybody where the rest of the cast can kind of draw inspiration from, where they can look at Harold and see that he's putting 110% into every scene that he films, that kind of energy is infectious on set. That is going to elevate the performances of all of the other actors and actresses around them. They're going to look at Harold and see, oh, holy shit. This is the main of the show, the lead of the show, the leader, our captain, as it were, and he's putting everything he has into these scenes. That is definitely going to inspire the rest of the cast to put forth their best performance. And I think it has had that effect, because then you look at some of the performances like Scott McCord as Victor, David Alpay as Jade, Elizabeth Saunders as Donna. Just phenomenal acting that we're seeing on this show. And I do think a lot of it is probably infectious, just being around Harold Perrineau and, that kind of energy that he exudes. It's very conducive to the kind of creative way of thinking for a show like this. So I imagine they love having a veteran like Harold kind of heading up the role of Boyd. At this point, I couldn't picture anybody else playing Boyd. And this is something I always kind of think about whenever it comes to like favorite shows that I really like. Once they start to get established, I always start to wonder, is it even possible that somebody else could play this character? Or is it possible that somebody else could play that character? And sometimes it is possible, but with a character like this, with what Harold Perrineau has done with the character of Boyd, I can't imagine a single actor playing Boyd better than Harold Perrineau. He was meant to play this character. I feel.
Yeah, he fits great.
Yeah, so good. And same thing with Victor. I really feel like Scott McCord was like destined to play this character of Victor. What Scott McCord does in terms of how he's able to kind of, I don't know what he draws on for inspiration, but I would love to find out at some point. But, and I know I've said this in the past, but what did he research going into the role? Did he research trauma victims, maybe some neurodivergency kind of aspects? Like what exactly did Scott McCord do for research when he was crafting this character of Victor? Because you see the end result, and it's so incredibly intuitive. And I really, and that's one thing I always really like to pay attention to. Yes, I like a good show with a good story and all of that, but sometimes I really just enjoy watching a really good actor put on a really good performance. That's why I guess I'm not really in a huge rush to get answers. I don't really mind the episodes that are a little bit slower in tone, because sometimes I just very much appreciate seeing these actors just play these roles as well as they are. And I probably get the most enjoyment in that aspect watching Scott McCord as Victor, just seeing how he's crafted this character, not just the way that he acts as Victor, but it's everything. It's everything that encompasses the character, the dialogue, his physical kind of appearance, his mannerisms, the way he carries himself, the little nervous tics that he does. He really poured so much into the character of Victor. And I think the results kind of speak for themselves in terms of this character that he has crafted. But sometimes I just really enjoy just seeing just the phenomenal actors and actresses just really putting everything into these roles. And again, it must be very nice to have a veteran like Harold Perrineau kind of setting this show up, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. But here we go, guys. We are getting closer and closer now. We are less than 40 minutes away from episode 9 hitting our screens, Revelations Part 1. And I do have the official episode 9 preview stills. And so I figured over the next 40 minutes, we will take a look at some of these and see what we can see as to what is coming in episode 4. Now, this one was an interesting one. I mean, we see Victor outside of his trusty kind of rope door. And when I first saw this, I'm thinking, why would Victor? I mean, is he getting ready to leave outside of the window? I mean, it's broad daylight. I imagine there's no threats around, so it wouldn't stand a chance. Wouldn't make much sense if he was leaving out the window, out his rope in the middle of the day. Then you take a closer look and you see this little tambourine object flying midair. So I'm wondering if this is Victor in the middle of one of his little tantrums that he's maybe throwing. Maybe we're seeing Victor kind of just chuck stuff out of his freaking window. Because again, after the revelation we got in episode 8, with Victor coming to the realization that it was his story that essentially sent his mother to her doom, I imagine he's going to be dealing with a good deal of guilt in this episode. And maybe we're seeing, this manifested here in this scene where Victor's kind of just chucking things out of his window in a fit of rage. Because that tambourine, man, it certainly seems to be flying out the window. But looking forward to seeing what's going to be happening here. We also have we have a few shots of Acosta and Donna out in the woods, and I imagine this is probably after Boyd has informed the entire town that Fatima is missing, and it looks like they are mounting a search party. And one thing I'm really interested to see is if Boyd gives Acosta her bullets back. Because we did see, of course, Boyd took away Acosta's gun, finally gave her the gun back, but without the bullets, said, you'll get these back when I know I can trust you. Now, I, for one, was expecting a little bit more of a butting of heads between Acosta and Boyd in episode 8 pertaining to the murder investigation of Tilly. It definitely seems like they were kind of setting up this whole murder investigation. We have Boyd and Acosta really clashing in the episode previous, where they definitely seem like these two characters are at odds. So I was very much expecting them to kind of clash a little bit more in terms of how they approach this murder investigation. So I was very surprised to see that they were pretty much just working together on it. They kind of just put their bullshit aside and said, let's figure out who did this. But I was expecting a little bit more of a clash there between Boyd and Acosta, but they were strangely professional there.
Well, Boyd already knows who did it, so he's got to cover it up.
Boyd does. Yeah, Boyd does, but he's got to still play it off like he's doing this murder investigation. And with Acosta kind of trying to assert her authority in the previous episode, with her kind of calling out Boyd and saying, I'm a real cop. I'm not just playing make-believe in a blazer, and a hand-me-down blazer. I was very surprised to see how quick they were to kind of just put their differences aside and work together. I was definitely expecting a little bit more of a clash between those two. But looks like we have the search party is underway. And then we have this episode, this shot of Acosta and Kenny. And they're both inside Colony House, and it seems like they are both reaching for their weapons. We see Kenny reaching for his gun, and we see Acosta reaching for her gun. What the heck is happening in the Colony House kitchen that is warranting them pulling out their sidearms and potentially neutralizing some kind of threat? Is someone losing it in Colony House? What exactly is happening in this scene that is causing both Acosta and Kenny to pull out their weapons, I wonder? I don't know. It seems like it's just out of shot here. But whatever they're looking at, they're perceiving it as some kind of threat. So I want to learn a little bit more about this. What could potentially? Do you guys have any ideas, any theories? I mean, there's really not much to go on. Unfortunately, it's just a quick little still. But I suppose really anybody could be over here. But what exactly is going on in this scene? I wonder. Are we seeing somebody else inside Fromville or inside Colony House start to have a little bit of a mental break? Maybe. I mean, we know that kind of thing does tend to happen here in Fromville. But I'm looking forward to seeing this one.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen like something manifest to more than one person. Like when Father Khatri, only Boyd sees him, right? And then Abby, only Boyd sees her. I don't know if we've had a case where someone else sees, one of those visions. So I don't know if it's like Dale popping up or something like that.
Oh yeah. When Jade sees his visions, he's the only one that can see
Right.
them. Yeah, nobody else can
Right.
kind of see what he's seeing. But we also have another new member. Thank you so
Nice.
much, Sergio, for becoming a new member of the channel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And of course, be sure to make use of all of the custom Fromville emojis we have down there that are available to all of the channel members. And thank you so much for becoming a member of the channel. Welcome to the Fromily, and I owe you a whoa. All right. Awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on in this scene and what exactly are Acosta and Kenny looking at here. What kind of threat are they perceiving that is causing them to pull out their weapons, maybe? I don't know. Let's see what else we got. I think Acosta is looking at the opposite side of the kitchen at Kenny, who was about to pull his gun pointed at something. I actually think Acosta is going to back him. Yeah, and I think that's the case as well. I think whatever they're looking at, I think Kenny and Acosta are both looking at the same person. And yes, it's look like they're both getting ready to pull their weapon and back each other up, because whatever they're looking at, they're definitely perceiving it to be some kind of threat. So yeah, I agree with you, Panda. I think whatever they're looking at, it seems like they're getting ready to back one another up. And this makes me wonder, did Acosta get her bullets back? Because we know that Boyd famously gave her gun back without the bullets. Now, could this potentially be an instance where Acosta is just trying to use her empty gun as some sort of deterrent, which is very possible. We talked about that last week as well, where just because she doesn't have the bullets doesn't necessarily mean that the gun itself can't be an effective tool as a deterrent. You point a gun at somebody, they're not going to know it's not empty. They're not going to know it's empty. So she could still potentially use it to diffuse a situation. But Kenny's, we know, is loaded.
Well, on that point, this week, like I said, we were watching bad movies. Not a bad movie, but we were watching Mad Max, The Road Warrior. And in that, he holds the gyro captain with a sawed-off shotgun for a good portion of the film, and then he comes across some shells and puts a shell in, and the gyro captain's like, "It's been empty the whole time." The threat of a weapon, whether you can't assume it's not loaded. It's your life on the line.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nobody knows the other aspect of that. Nobody knows that Boyd took the bullets away, so she can still use the weapon as an intimidation factor, because she's also the only other person that's carrying a weapon other than Boyd, and Kenny. Nobody else has got a weapon, so just the threat of that gives her a status of authority, and I think that's it. Whether or not she even uses it doesn't matter. It's just the threat of it.
Yeah, and we have seen the empty gun held on someone in this season.
Yep,
with Henry and
Henry and Tabitha. I never even
that's
loaded
good Chekhov's
this
gun moment type thing that in the metaphor has been used before, so you know it's going to be used again.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And this is an interesting answer as well, as East Bay True Punk says, likely because of Victor and the axe. Maybe they're seeing Victor hold the axe. We know Victor is going to take that axe and try to chop this faraway tree down. Maybe they're seeing Victor holding this axe in some kind of hyper threatening manner, and they're getting a little bit nervous. Maybe that could potentially be a possibility. Yeah, I didn't think of that, but that's definitely a possibility. When does this come out? The next episode will be airing on MGM Plus and on Amazon Prime in 30 minutes. We are just a half hour away from episode 9 hitting our screens, and I do believe somebody in our Discord, I do believe Ravener is gearing up to stream episode 9 in the Discord. So if anybody wants to join the watch party in the Discord, everybody, of course, is more than welcome to watch episode 9 in there as well. But yeah, we are 30 minutes away now, guys. Just 30 more minutes. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. All right, let's see what else we got here in some of these stills. But yeah, I like the whole Victor holding the axe idea. I think that's a really good idea. We saw these earlier. It looks like the diner is back open and ready for business. We see the Matthews family are sitting back at their patented table that they used to always sit at. So again, I know it's not a whole lot, but I'm glad they at least gave something for Bacta to do in season 3, because I was really expecting her to have a little bit of a bigger role, again, just based on the whole nursery rhyme Easter egg that they kind of foreshadowed at the end of season 2, with her being the only one that had ever heard it. I was expecting for us to learn a little bit more about Bacta in season 3, and maybe they, start peeling those layers back. But it seems like it was one of those things where maybe they just didn't have the time. They do only have 10 episodes, unfortunately, and the episodes aren't overly long in terms of runtime. They're not like full 1 hour episodes. It seems like every episode is around 45 to 50 minutes long in runtime after you take away the credits and the opening theme. Each episode is usually only around 45 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer. So it's unfortunate that we're not getting full-on 1 hour episodes, but it seems like maybe they just didn't have enough time to fully explore the character of Bacta in season 3. But I'm hoping we learn a little bit more about her in season 4, because, again, they did set up that interesting little tidbit between the connection she had with the nursery rhyme. So I was hoping they were going to peel back those layers a little more, but again, with only 10 episodes and having this many characters, like From has a lot of characters to get through. It's a huge ensemble cast from start to finish. And you have main characters, secondary characters, and then you have background characters. So it's understandable that they're not going to be able to peel back the layer on every single character every season. But hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about Bacta in season 4. Hopefully. Let me pull this back up. Oh, there we go. It's my thing is crashing out on me, guys. Sorry. While we wait for that to load, let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Yeah, don't pull a Walt. Walt, no. Yeah, if I hear Harold Perrineau screaming about Walt, no, I'm going to lose it at this point. At least tonight we got 57 minutes. That is good. I actually hadn't looked up the runtime for episode 9, so that is good. I mean, if it's a 57-minute runtime, you take away 3 or 4 minutes for the credits and the intro. That's decent. That's definitely a lot better. I would definitely, take a 55, 54-minute episode over a 45-minute episode all day. So 57 minutes is much better. That's awesome. That is good to know, Golden Child. Good to know. Awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. Am I the only one who feels the need to see that Acosta is such a cutie whenever I see her? Sorry for being such a stupid man, but she is so my type. No, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. No, I think she's beautiful. Samantha Brown, the actress who was playing Acosta, she was in the premiere for the season 3 red carpet premiere, and yeah, she looked drop dead gorgeous in the dress that she had on the red carpet. So yeah, hey, guys are gonna be guys every once in a while. There's nothing wrong with being attracted to a good-looking female. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Yeah, I think Samantha Brown, the actress who plays Acosta, yeah, she's good looking. She's a looker. She's definitely a looker, for sure. Awesome stuff. There's a lot of threads going on. Yes, Father Daniel, there really are. In terms of there still is a decent amount of storylines that they do need to tie up before the season ends. Yes, we only have 2 episodes left, but there's still tons of storylines that do need to get tied up. Now, usually when you get to the end of the season, you start to see some of these storylines converge into one. And I feel like we've already started to see that a little bit where, the Fatima storyline and the Elgin Kimono storyline kind of started off as seemingly 2 separate storylines at the beginning of the season, whereas now they're clearly merging into one. Same thing with Tabitha and Jade. We're seeing their stories kind of merge into one. Even Victor is spending more time with Tabitha and Jade, and I imagine they're probably going to learn even more about some of these things that happened in the past of Fromville. So as we get a little closer to the end, we will start to see even more of these storylines converge a little bit more, and that just makes it a little bit easier for the writers to tie all of these storylines up. Because if you have to tie up a ton of individual storylines, that becomes much more complicated as a writer, as opposed to merging some storylines and just wrapping them up all in one. So I do think we'll see that continue, where some of these storylines will kind of converge into one towards the end, for sure. For sure. All right, let me pull this back up here. Let's take a look at the rest of these stills. We are just 25 minutes away now, ladies and gents. 25 minutes away from episode 9, entitled Revelations Part 1. But there we have the diner back up and running, and a lot of people were talking about the music boxes the jukeboxes just mysteriously being back. I mean, I could have sworn that this was the table that Kenny smashed
they
his
broke
on.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is the broken one that's just there, but I saw a lot of people mentioning that in the comment section, that they were wondering why the jukebox was back when it seemingly got destroyed. We see there's still one on Jim's table here, but I could have sworn this was the same table that Kenny smashed his on, unless this is just the broken one just sitting there. Yeah, I saw a lot of people wondering why the jukebox was back, but I don't know. I don't have an answer myself. I do not have an answer myself. Let's see what else we got. We got really bad Yasu. Thank you so much for the $4.99. What is Boyd's role in the From story? The main characters seem to have a connection to Fromville. Could he be the man in yellow? Ooh, interesting. I mean, he does wear a lot of yellow. I mean, there's certainly that. I mean, he's always got some kind of yellow shirt on. But no, I don't think he's going to be the man in yellow per se. I feel like the man in yellow that we saw in Tabitha's painting, I'm hoping that's going to be a character that they introduce in season 4. Or maybe even this season. I know some people were expecting him to pop up. And again, when you foreshadow something like that, it's nice to see that kind of foreshadowing play out in the same season that it starts on. But From has been so notorious for starting storylines off on one season and continuing them into the next season. So I'm hoping that we learn who this boy and who this man in white is. And when I first saw that painting, my original thought was, could this man in yellow, or I mean, I know the fandom's calling him the man in yellow, which makes sense. I mean, he is dressed in yellow after all. But part of me is wondering if he is the kind of antithesis to the boy in white, the boy in white's opposite, if you will. You got the boy in white and you got the man in yellow. Could these potentially be two opposite sides of whatever kind of conflict is happening here in Fromville? Could the boy in white be representing one side and maybe the man in yellow representing another side? Are these kind of enemies? Are these adversaries? Or are they potentially allies, I guess? I mean, it's really hard to tell, but at first glance, when I first saw this man in yellow, that was the first thought that I had, that, okay, maybe this man in yellow is the antithesis to the boy in white. But I guess we'll find out. I'm sure we'll find out eventually. But thank you so much, though, for the $4.99. But in terms of what Boyd's role is going to be, I think Boyd's role is going to continue to be what we've seen up until this point. He is the town's protector. He has taken it upon himself, and he has even kind of been, handed that trust by the town, or at least up until this point. I know Donna mentions in episode 8 that the town is starting to lose faith in Boyd. But I think that is going to be Boyd's role in perpetuity. His role is to protect this town. Boyd, I always kind of liken Boyd to the Greek titan Atlas, where Boyd is kind of cursed to just keep this town holed up on his freaking shoulders. He's got the weight of this entire town on his shoulders 24/7, just like Atlas was cursed to do as well. So Boyd very much is the Atlas of this show, in my opinion. I think he's going to continue to fill that general role where he has become the town's protector, the peacekeeper, the sheriff, as it were. But in terms of his ultimate goal, and again, I know I've mentioned this a few times already, but I think Boyd's ultimate fate is going to be to die saving everybody else. I don't see Boyd escaping this town with everybody else. I see the majority of these people eventually escaping this town after they complete whatever quest, quote unquote quest they're here to do, whether that is successfully save the Onkui children or something else. I do think there is some kind of objective that they need to complete before they leave. They can't just find the exit and leave, because they'll probably just get pulled right back in by whatever is controlling this. They need to defeat what is controlling this before they leave. And I do think that maybe saving the Onkui children, successfully saving the children, could potentially put an end to that cycle. But I don't know. I have a very bad feeling that Boyd is not going to survive this entire show. I could definitely see Boyd making it to the very end, but in my mind, I potentially see Boyd going down a similar path that Jack did on Lost, in terms of making it all the way to the very end and then kind of dying in some heroic manner to save everybody else, to get everybody else home. Boyd will sacrifice himself in order to do that. So I definitely expect Boyd to make it to the end, but I'm definitely not expecting him to make it out of this town. I think Boyd's fate is going to be to die saving everybody else.
He's still got to get his boat.
Yeah, he's got to get his boat, right?
Yeah.
He's still got to get his boat.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you so much for the $4.99, and thank you so much, Panda Nikki, for the $6.99 as well. Thanks for working so hard covering this show for us, Jeremy. Well, honestly, I really love covering this show. And yes, sometimes it means it's a lot of late hours and, a lot of time spent in front of the computer editing videos and stuff like that. But I genuinely have fun doing stuff like that. I don't really, it's not really a chore to me. I mean, yes, it's some sleepless nights, but I absolutely love covering the show, and I love discussing it with each and every one of you. And just to have, just to play a very small part in this ever-growing fandom is hugely rewarding in and of itself. I've met some of the coolest people around, right in these little From circles that we kind of swim in. So no, I'm thanking each and every one of you. I thank each and every one of you for showing up into these chats, for supporting the videos, for commenting, for liking, for sharing. I see all of it. It all shows up in the analytics, and I see you guys have been sharing the videos, you've been commenting, you've been dropping likes. I can't thank each and every one of you enough for all of the support you guys have shown the channel. So no, if anything, I should be thanking all of you for just making this fandom as awesome as it is, and making this experience as optimal as it possibly could be, because we have such an awesome fandom here within the From community. So thank you very much for your kind words, Panda. But no, I should be the one thanking you guys for all of the support. And I am going to do that right now by sending both of you a well-deserved whoa. Awesome stuff, guys. Awesome stuff. But yeah, this really is one of the coolest fandoms I've ever been a part of in a very, very long time. So, and again, that is thanks to each and every one of you. I really want to see this scene as well. It looks like we have the return of the nurse monster. I know it's not the nurse monster that we know and love from season 2. They have since recast the role. This is the season 2 nurse here. This was the season 1 nurse. And the season 1 nurse was just so creepy looking. Like this was the monster that came the closest to invoking that kind of unsettling feeling I used to get every time I saw Smiley. Smiley, of course, is the original OG. He'll always be the original monster. And he brought a very interesting aspect to the show, because, I mean, maybe it's just me, but every time I saw Smiley smiling, he really did kind of, instill this kind of unsettling feeling. It was super creepy and menacing to watch this dude smile. And then the nurse monster came around in season 2. And for me, the nurse monster was the closest monster that I have seen that managed to kind of invoke that same feeling in me every time I saw her smiling. But unfortunately, we got a new actress playing the nurse monster in season 3. And I don't want to say unfortunately, like this new nurse monster is actually kind of cute looking, if anything. But I do kind of miss I do kind of miss the original nurse from season 2, just because she had such a unique and interesting look for these monsters.
I don't know, man. The cowboy in that first episode. Oh, this place is gonna break you, Boyd.
Yeah, where'd he go? We need him back.
There we go.
I like that. I think he did a good performance too.
It's the bolo tie.
Where's
The bolo tie adds to it.
Yeah.
It all of it, the rodeo belt buckle, the hat. It's just he is very creepy looking. And then when you hear the kind of southern drawl that he has on his voice as well, kind of slight little southern accent, yeah, super creepy. He's always got his hand on his belt buckle, like rodeo champs do.
Yeah, thumbs stuck into the belt.
Thumb stuck into the belt. Yeah, exactly. Yep. But yeah, we haven't seen him in a while. I mean, we haven't seen him since like episode 4, I believe, was the last time we saw the cowboy monster. And I was expecting him to play a little bit more of a prominent role, considering he seemed to be the ringleader, at least in episode 1, when it when it came down to setting this trap for Boyd and for Tien Chen inside the barn, the cowboy monster was the ringleader. He was the one kind of calling the shots there. So I was very much expecting him to kind of become the show's next Smiley, because Smiley was very much the main monster until he got killed. I was very much expecting the cowboy monster to kind of fill that role, but yeah, we haven't seen the freaking cowboy monster in what, like 4 weeks now? 4 episodes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, bring the cowboy back.
Yeah, Kiwi with the Woody. You got a friend in
Woody.
me.
yeah, the fandom started calling him Woody. I always forget about that. The fandom comes up with some just great nicknames for a lot of these characters. And again, I love the Smelgen one that people came up with in terms of calling Elgin Smelgen, because he's been wearing that stank shirt since he arrived and he hasn't changed once. So yeah, Smelgen is definitely Smelgen. But Fanny Pack Granny will always be one of my favorite ones. Maybe it's just because it originated here on the channel. But I love Fanny Pack Granny for Tilly. It's just so freaking fitting. But yeah, Woody, where are you, Woody? Come back to us. Again, we got 2 episodes left. Maybe, just maybe, hopefully, we'll see one more appearance of the cowboy monster before the season fully ends. Hopefully we'll see him again. I hope so, at least. All right, let's get back to some of these. Of course, we saw some of the diner shots. We saw, Boyd ringing a bell. We got Boyd delivering his speech outside of the diner, and we saw a little bit of this in the episode 9 teaser trailer, where he is informing the entire town that Fatima has gone missing, and it looks like they're probably going to mount some kind of search. This was an interesting one. We got Ellis and Elgin kind of having an interesting conversation. And of course, Ellis probably has no idea that Smelgen has kidnapped Fatima, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see some kind of reckoning between these two characters. When Ellis does find out what Elgin did, I could definitely see these two maybe coming to blows a little bit. Maybe. We'll see. We shall see. We got the Matthews family and the rest of the town gathered outside of the diner. This is them most likely listening to the speech that Boyd was giving, so not much there. But yeah, here we go, guys. We're getting closer and closer now. We are just less than 15 minutes away. Now, this was an interesting one. I actually just recently put out an episode 9 predictions video earlier this morning, and it was based on a lot of these stills. And this was a cool one, because here we got Tabitha and Julie outside of Victor's peach truck, which has been such an iconic location, I feel like, ever since season 2, with all the gold mines that are inside Victor's peach truck, with all the maps and all the drawings, so many Easter eggs in that peach truck. I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going on here. And I think we did see a little precursor to this in the episode 9 teaser trailer, where we see one of the Onkui children kind of waving Tabitha towards her into the woods. And I get the feeling that the Onkui child is potentially trying to lure Tabitha towards the root cellar. Maybe this Onkui child is going to kind of direct Tabitha and Julie towards the root cellar in hopes of maybe helping Fatima. Because again, when I see these Onkui children, I don't get the oversense. I don't get the feeling that they're malicious and evil. I do get the feeling that these children are a little bit more good-natured. I don't think they mean harm. So maybe the Onkui child appearing to Tabitha is an attempt to get Tabitha to maybe find this root cellar and hopefully find Fatima down there. I guess the big question here is, what exactly are they going to find? I mean, it seems like they are going to come upon the root cellar, but it looks like it's already open. Is Fatima even still down there? Is she already gone at this point? And if she is still down there, what kind of state is Fatima going to be in, I wonder? Because one thing we did see from the episode 9 trailer, Fatima's stomach is already starting to show. So whatever is growing inside of her seems to be growing at a very rapid rate. It is certainly not a normal growth. She just conceived a few weeks ago up until this point, if we remember. So there's no way she should be showing yet. But here we're seeing she is very much already showing. So I think that gives us even more kind of confirmation that whatever is growing inside of her, it is definitely not a normal human. And I wouldn't be too surprised if we even see some of the blood here that Elgin maybe took out of his arm to nourish the baby further, because I definitely get the feeling that blood was meant for Fatima and for the baby. So it's going to be interesting to see, how fast is this thing going to progress? Could we potentially see Fatima with a full-on belly by the end of the episode, do you think?
Maybe it'll
and do you
pop
think
out.
she'll give birth? Well, I was going to say, do you think she'll give birth this season? I mean, based on seeing this accelerated growth, I was a little bit worried when they were setting up this whole pregnancy storyline coming into season 3, because obviously, it takes so long for a pregnancy storyline to kind of come to fruition unless there's a supernatural aspect to it and the growth is happening much faster. So I guess that's the big question. What do you guys think? Do you guys think we will actually see this birth take place this season? Or do you think this might be something that they maybe carry over to season 4? Could this potentially even be one of the cliffhangers they end the season off on, where we don't really get to see what she gives birth to? Maybe it kind of ends right around that time. But I'm very interested either way. Like, I really hope whatever she gives birth to, we see it this season. But whatever the case is, I definitely am wondering, are we going to see her go into labor this season, or will this be something they carry over into season 4? Because, again, this thing looks like it is growing at a very rapid rate based on the state of her showing here. So, yeah, we got a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, I think that'll how they'll end this episode 9. Will be the cliffhanger.
You think it'll happen in episode 9?
Yeah, at the end.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, maybe it will. Again, I was kind of expecting by the end of episode 9 we'll see that her stomach is like really, really big, and maybe we'll see her give birth in episode 10. But it could potentially happen in this episode, I suppose. I mean, it does seem like it's growing very fast. And I guess then the question is, what the heck is she going to be giving birth to? Is it going to be a normal-looking human? Is it going to be some kind of monster, some kind of kimono creature? Like, what the heck is she giving birth to? Or, as you suggest, Snug, is it going to be a freaking face hugger for all we know? I don't know. At this point, nothing would surprise me. If we see a little xenomorph popping out of fucking Fatima at the end of this episode, I probably wouldn't be that surprised at this point. But yeah, there we go, folks. We are getting closer and closer now. And as I look, we are just 8 minutes away from episode 9. So we are going to get ready to wind this down and give you guys plenty of time to go and hit the bathroom if you need to do a bathroom break, get your snacks, get your drinks, get your cannabis if that's what you're into. I know I am certainly getting my cannabis ready. But first, we got Loretta for $1.99. Thank you so much, nice. Loretta. Very much appreciate you, just because. Well, that is incredibly generous of you, and I very much appreciate the support. And again, I'm just so thankful for the awesome fandom that has kind of sprung up around this channel, around all of these From channels, and this From community as a whole. It's been just incredibly fun to dive into the show with everybody all year. And I promise you, the party will not stop when season 3 ends. As soon as season 3 ends, we will be doing what we always do at the end of a season, and that is going back and rewatching the entirety of From, right from the very beginning, season 1, episode 1. And the reason why we like to do this every year is because, by its very mystery box nature, a show like this, once we finally do get to the end of season 3 and we do get some more pieces to the puzzle, it's always very advantageous to go back to the beginning of the story and rewatch everything, because you're always going to find some new things that you just didn't pick up on the first go around because we simply didn't have context to look for them. But now, with us getting more pieces to the puzzle, once we go back and do our season 1 and season 2 rewatch after season 3 ends, I have a feeling we're going to start to pick up on so many things that we just didn't have context for the first go around. So when season 3 ends, the party is not going to stop. We will be diving right into a season 1 and a season 2 rewatch, and hopefully you guys come and hang out with us and dive back into all things Fromville from the very beginning and see if we can pick up on some new things that we maybe missed the first go around. So thank you so much, Loretta. B. Morgan for $5. Thank you so much, B. Morgan. Could the touch break steel nursery rhyme be all about Fatima? Rough, but maybe how she conceives, delivers, and baby will be stolen. Ooh, now that's an interesting theory, B. Morgan. They touch, they break, they steal. I mean, Fatima was clearly touched by this kimono creature in terms of her being impregnated by it. Break in terms of, could this pregnancy actually break Fatima? One thing I thought was very interesting is all of the actors were asked in an interview before season 3 started to describe season 3 using 3 words. And one of the phrases that Fatima used, the actress that plays Fatima, was bone crunching. She literally said bone crunching as her answer. So yeah, you might be onto something. Maybe this kind of nursery rhyme was pertaining a little bit more to Fatima, where we're going to see her get touched by something in terms of being impregnated. We're going to see her being broken when she actually gives birth to this thing in terms of this whole bone breaking statement that she gave. And then yes, will it ultimately lead with the baby being stolen? That's an interesting one, B. Morgan. I actually never thought of that, but I like that. I like that. That's a very interesting one. And thank you so much for the $5. And thank you so much as well, Loretta. And I owe you guys a whoa. Indeed, indeed. But yeah, will this be some kind of creepy Twilight baby? I think I saw somebody say in the chat. Yes, maybe it will be. Maybe it will be. Amy. Yeah, maybe it will be some kind of weird Twilight baby that she's going to be giving birth to. Maybe. But again, I am really looking forward to episode 9. We are just 5 minutes away now, so I am going to get ready to close this stream down. I hate to close the stream with 500 freaking awesome people in here, but I know a lot of you are probably gearing up to get ready to watch the episode as well. And whether you're watching it on your own screen or whether you want to hop into the Discord and watch it in the Discord during the watch party is totally up to you. But after the Discord watch party is over, we will also be discussing episode 9 in the voice chat, so everybody is welcome to join in the after discussion in the Discord after we're done watching, and we will be diving deep into everything we see in episode 9, Revelations Part 1. But again, I want to give a big thank you to each and every one of you for joining us, not just tonight, but again, every single week. You guys have been showing up in record numbers. I cannot appreciate the support. I can't convey how much I appreciate the support. And I very much look forward to finishing out the rest of this season and seeing where season 3 is going to end. And of course, what new mysteries and themes are they going to set up for season 4 and beyond? And hopefully when season 3 ends, we will get that official confirmation that season 4 is a go. At this point, it's pretty much all but guaranteed. They know they're going to get a season 4. It's just a matter of when they publicly announce it at this point. So hopefully once season 3 ends, we will get that official confirmation that season 4 is a go, because I know they're already started writing. I know they've already started writing for season 4. Hopefully they can start filming pretty early on, beginning next year. And if that's the case, maybe we could potentially get from season 4 in 2025. I imagine we probably will get it in 2025, probably closer towards fall or winter, but definitely am expecting us to get season 4 of From next year. This isn't going to be one of those shows that takes 2 years to film like House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. It's much more, it's nowhere near as complicated a filming process. So very much looking forward to seeing where From is going to end. Cannot wait to see what they're going to set up for season 4 and beyond. And we will be right here diving deep into each and every single episode with each and every one of you. So hopefully you guys come back and hang out with us. We will also be live tomorrow night for our encore watch party. So anybody who doesn't watch the episode tonight, or maybe doesn't have access to the episode tonight, because I know some people who are living abroad in the UK and Australia and in other places, some people don't even get access to the episode until tomorrow. So we will be doing an encore watch party tomorrow night, like we do every week, right here on the channel, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here. We'll be diving deep into all things episode 9. And if you watch it tonight and want to come watch it again for a second time with us, that is awesome as well. But again, big thank you to each and every one of you for all of the support. And until next time, stay safe out there, guys, in this crazy world. Keep those tinfoil hats on. Don't be afraid to dive into that rabbit hole. And we will see you on the next one.